Yes, it is setting up custom. That means it's going live. It's streaming. Awesome. Just give me a minute and I'll officially open for those people who are watching on the live. Yes, it is setting up custom. We are live. I would say Iotwoman. IoT day. Okay. So, hello everyone. I see Yash on the screen. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome. This is IoT Women on IoT Day. Happy IoT Day. April 9th is IoT Day. I've been involved for 10 years. It's a bigger phenomena than just me and my team here. But for the last 5 years, and this is our 5th year officially, where we're running this as IoT Women with 24-hour lineup of all women speakers. And when I say women, they kind of, set their bar high. So, this is going to be an amazing set of sessions where you're going to learn from the experts. And our very first session is going to be about Gen AI. Before I bring in the host for that segment, I want to tell you, for those of you who are watching here, so we have some people who have signed up on Zoom. I've been sharing this everywhere, and I have, a whole team of people who have been working on this time, all passion project and, extra time outside of their lives. So bit.ly/IoT Women 24. If you sign up, that's how you got here to the Zoom automatically. Even now, if you watch this and you say, I want to get into the Zoom and come in, you're going to get that by signing up there. And we're going to run this as 2 segments. It's 10 o'clock here. We'll go till 1 o'clock. And then at 1, we'll take like a 20 minutes break. It's too ambitious, but we need to stretch our legs. And then we'll continue our second half of the sessions. That will go till 5 o'clock my time. So, and we have people from every possible time zone. I see Ine from South Sudan. We have amazing women from India who actually have their New Year celebration, in Karnataka, and they are all here also. So I appreciate this extra effort. So let me do one thing. Let me show you what the schedule looks like. My host, who has been doing this crazy enough to encourage me to keep doing this, is Roxy Stimson. She is at a huge Google event where I just heard that Gemini can now listen. So she's going to come tell us more about it. So thank you, Roxy, for being a partner in this. So Roxy will be joining us in another hour plus at the end of the first panel. And let me show the schedule. Okay. And I want to see who else is from my team. I'm going to introduce Yash in a minute. And I see Ananya. Thank you, Ananya. And then through the day, we will actually have other people come in. And one of the other people, my equal program chair in this, is Parya Sarin. She started as my intern, and it's volunteer effort for her additional to her college. And she's a first-year college student here in California. And she comes in and finds time. So all the Zoom link, everything that was set up came from Parya. Thank you, Parya. We could not have done anything without you. She keeps me so smart, so I appreciate that. Many of the speaker communication came from Parya. And then we found that this time the scale of operation of what we are doing is so huge, because we had official nomination, had a cutoff date, had so many speakers. Then we had to do a selection process and reply back to them. And Parya's email was stopped by a lovely AI, which thought, okay, the same person is sending too many emails, must be spam, and it got stopped. So then we had to, get all of your emails back into MailChimp to an official a paid service from where you were able to get the emails. Okay, so there's Parya Saren, Roxy Stimson, Ananya Sen actually came in to make sure she's an engineer who moved to product management, and she is one of those people who is still got her engineering brain and the product management brain, and she knows to switch about it. And she made sure that the last week when there was chaos on what is happening, different segments, different schedules. The challenge with the schedule is we have top experts, we have topics that you sign up and said you will come and talk to us about, and then you come from different time zones. And so right now it's night in India already, and it is, late evening in Europe and Africa. And so we had to kind of shuffle to make sure that we respect your time boundary and also, make the session flow, because finally for the people who are listening and coming and attending, it is, you're coming here to learn. For you, it doesn't matter whether the women is the top expert. Most of the time they are in their field, but you're coming to learn from the best. Okay, so I'm going to give you the schedule now. And since I'm streaming here, what I'm going to do is I see you on LinkedIn. The funny thing on LinkedIn is it just shows number of people, and I see the numbers go up as more people join in. I won't know who you are. If you don't want to make yourself visible, it's fine. If you want to, show your support, you can do one of those emojis down there. And just fill your questions. You're here to learn. So ask your questions, and I will make sure that I'm watching the LinkedIn and bring it back to the speakers here. We have different segments with multiple hosts. I'll make sure that I bring it here. And this is also streaming on YouTube, but I'm not going to be able to go look at YouTube. We'll use that for embedding and sharing later time. And by being here on Zoom, if you come on camera or you speak up, you're giving us permission to be recorded and to be distributed forever. And what we do is, I put it out in my newsletter for starters, but I'm very big on sharing and latest in tech and educating people. So we will be sharing that. So if you don't want to do that, you can actually introduce yourself in chat, ask your questions in chat. We won't put the chat out anywhere, so it'll be private. Okay. Any other logistics I'm missing? And the stream on LinkedIn will also live on. So if you're watching this later and coming in, tag a friend, come back. And for a little while, today's April 9th, and for a little while, we'll have our speakers, we'll tag them so they'll come back and, hopefully answer some questions. If you have some burning question that you didn't get to it while you're listening to them, that happens with me all the time. Okay. So with that, I am going to go to the schedule that I've been promising for a while now. Okay. And the first segment is going to be on generative AI, the hottest topic in the tech world. And we have a complete panel of experts here. So it's amazing. I'm so excited. Okay. So one thing I want to do is I want to show you this list of women that I'm talking about who are our brilliant speakers today. So you might have seen a version of this. This is our latest version of final version of our speakers from around the globe. You're going to hear from them. Some of them you might have seen the recording already in the last few hours from last evening for me. When it became IoT Day, somewhere on Earth, we started streaming. Okay. And the other thing, let me stop this share and get you the schedule that I'm promising for a long time now. And for those of you who are new and don't know me, I'm a technology futurist. I love teaching in multiple different universities. My calling is to teach exponential technology. So I've taught autonomous vehicles, I teach AI, now I teach Gen AI, value creation from data and all the cool stuff. But my focus is to teach using no code. And I come from being an engineer, so I know what it means to code, but I also know there are a lot of different job roles who do different functions. And sometimes you also grow up in technology industry and then you go far away from the hands-on tech and then new stuff comes in. And so it's pretty intimidating. So I like to teach people from various different job roles to understand the power of what they bring in to learn AI and Gen AI so that we can build amazing stuff that works for all of us. And this is a form of inclusive research that I already published, but I also, my focus on bringing more inclusion into the world of AI. So I teach designers, marketing people, business people, product managers, a lot of different product managers is kind of my students. And I feel so blessed that my students, are super smart. They're going to be successful without me. So I'm very glad that they chose to have me in their journey. So why does it? Okay, do you guys see just the schedule? Can somebody answer? Do you see just the schedule?
Yes. Yes, Sudha.
right? You don't see anything else, right? Because it is showing me a bunch of things open. Awesome. So I'm going to minimize this so I can see the full schedule as I talk to you. So here's what we're doing. Thank you again, Pariya. And the first panel we are going to start soon is going to be led by Yashashwini and Yashashwini Vishwanath, and she's joining us from Bangalore. And I will let Yash actually introduce her panel, and I'll come back to Yash before. I just want to go through the whole schedule. So, so that, like I said, we are trying to keep the time. So there are, people who think that when there are women events and women-led events, they think that women get together and talk about women issues, which we will, but that's not all. What we are going to do is we are going to keep our time on this committed time. So in case you're in different time zones or you're in meetings and you want to come back at different times, we will start on time for each of the segments. And the idea is, because you are all at work or in different time zones, we also want to be respectful of our speakers who are also doing that for us. Okay, so the first panel is going to be on generative AI, led by Yash. And following that, we have Ine Yankee. And when we finish up, I will try and do an intro and come back. And Ine is one of those amazing people who have changed my perspective about impact of what I do for me to focus and get to results. So we'll get to Ine and hear about her work. She's joining from South Sudan. And then our famous Roxy Stimson will be joining us after the Google keynote, right from Las Vegas at 11:15. That will be an hour from now. And she has been working on innovation all the time. So, she's going to come talk to us about open innovation and AI. And then we have Frenzy Clement coming in with a panel. We are calling it Women in AI Canada because Frenzy runs Women in AI Canada, and also, the women who are joining her are from Canada. So you will learn from these amazing women. It is not just about organizing Women in AI Canada, which is a huge feat, but you'll learn from these women. And then I think at 12:15 by the time. So I think the morning panels are 45 minutes. And then at 12:15 is career panel led by me. And we have like an amazing diverse set of women. We have Alejandra Infantis, who actually joined our organizing team as an ambassador for Latin America. And then she brought in so much energy. So many of the recorded sessions came from Peru, Colombia, Mexico, and so many different topics. And she brought in so much energy to the organizing team. So thank you, Alejandra. So she'll be joining us. Olu will be joining. Olu is a force. I can't even find English words to describe Olu. So you'll see Olu when you see Olu. And then Suma Gangadhar is going to join us from India, Madison, and Ananya. And then we'll take a short lunch break, as I said. And then there's the afternoon segment, this AI ethics panel led by Susanna Raj, who's a top AI ethicist I respect a lot. She'll introduce her team. Again, it's a very diverse team. We have Camille and Usha. I think Usha is already here. Each of these women bring a very different set of experience working in AI. Usha is one of those people who knows to work on technology, pretty hands-on, has taught PhD students at Arizona State, and then worked in McKinsey, and then knows the business strategy. So, fusing those together is like magic. Not everybody can do that. So, and they are talking about AI ethics. So I'm going to let Susanna decide how she's going to drive that. And then what I was telling you, that Alejandra has brought this Latin women in AI governance. And Alejandra is one of those people. She's actually was my student at the Barcelona Technology School. And she's very passionate about governance, and there's lawyers in the room there. So it'll be very interesting on how they bring in AI. It's not about setting governance for the government. It's something different. So you'll be amazed to hear that. And then Sneha Jadhav is going to be joining us. Sneha Jadhav was was part of our volunteering team. And she's a product manager in the data and connected product space. And This is going to be a very interesting segment. This is not a discussion. It's more a segment with multiple presentations on various topics related to data. Joanne Horwath is like a brilliant math genius. So she's going to do a session on math, I think. So we'll see. And then we were streaming the Africa segment. So I want to bring that back because we could not have the women from Africa come in live. And so we streamed that last night, but I want to make sure that I show you some of their segments. And so that would be at 3:20. And then we have this thing about how do you automate AI from Sushmita as a individual session. And then we'll wrap up back. And I hope Pariya will be able to stop by. Pariya has classes, so at different times she's going to peep in. So say hello to her when she comes in. Okay, so I'm going to close out on that. And I'm going to give the floor to Yashashwini, but I want to say a few words. Yash, do you need host access?
I think we are good.
Okay. So for those of you who are joining in to watch on LinkedIn, I will be taking your questions. If you are wondering who the speakers are and what is happening at any point you come in, look at Business School of AI on LinkedIn, and you will be able to see the latest, and we'll be updating. I think we did a bunch of updates on the speakers and sessions already. The other thing is I will be fielding questions from there. People come in and out, so I have to repeat these things, guys. So for those of you who are already very diligently in the room, who showed up on time, if you're wondering why she's saying the same thing, I'm saying that to a new set of people are showing up. So if you're on LinkedIn, I'm here to field your questions. And you can do an emoji, but I think the value really comes out when you ask questions from your experience and you say, I worked on this and I have a thought on that. What do you think about this and that? So that's how I think it'll be more useful for you. But, people tend to warm up over the day, and we are going to do this till 5 o'clock. So it's like a whole day affair. So let me bring Yash Ashwini here. Yash is an AI researcher. That is the easiest way to describe her. But Yash is somebody who actually has an amazing attitude, personality, brilliance in learning language. And Yash works on AI ethics. And, given her brilliance and knowledge that she has in AI research, she can do anything. But she chose to work on AI ethics. In fact, I teach at multiple universities. I teach at Barcelona Technology School, at Elisava Business School of AI, and Stanford. And when I'm not doing that, I try to do independent research. So like, some alternate semesters, I try to go focus on research or writing a book. And then I bring in courses on Business School of AI. And Yash came in and wanted this course on AI ethics. So that kind of focused me to actually build out a whole program on responsible AI, inclusive AI, and go find out who else are the expert in the field who can bring it, because my focus primarily is on teaching AI to build AI using no code for people to go deeper into the AI lifecycle. And so that is one. And then we host a weekly speaker series called Weekly Wed, where Yash came in and I said, Yash, do you want to host it? And then she made it her own. So let me see if I can pin Yash in here, and then I will vanish off the screen. So Yash is somebody who actually, I think for those of you, you're going to listen to Yash in action, and then, as soon as I give her the floor, the spark is going to start. But I also want you to follow her, because she's somebody who, puts things to action. She wants to learn. She said that she can learn a new language, like a computer programming language, in 3 days, and she has a systematic method for that. And she teaches courses with me at Barcelona Technology School also. So let me pass this on to Yash. And Yash, take it away. Tell us about what your panel is about, and bring your panelist, and we are here to learn from you.
Thank you, Sudha. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I should be really thankful for all organizers of IoT Day. I have seen how much effort has gone into to get this to the state the way it is we are seeing now. And a big thanks to everybody who have put in their sweat and blood the last 1 week, day and night, to put this together. Yeah, I will start with my panel. We all know that generative AI is the talk of the town. We know that generative AI is what everybody wants to get on the wagon because it is something that is of the future. Generative AI is not just a technology that is there for luxury, but I think generative AI will make an impact based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals too. The reason why we have generative AI in this panel discussion is that I want to bring in different perspectives from many industry leaders and try to get a holistic view of generative AI that we have now and how it can make a difference to each of our life and to the society that we live in. I would like to introduce my panel. We have Kaustuba. Um, in the paucity of time, I will just tell one tagline for each of them. Uh, Kaustuba, who is the cloud computing girl. Hima is the top woman leader. And Usha, who's the community heartbeat. I want to call her the community heartbeat. Usha Rengaraju. And Krishna Priya, who is a seasoned professional who has come with us here. And Sahaj, who is a PhD student and an AI ethics researcher. So this is what I came with, and I have a small poem to start off, which ChatGPT has written for me for introducing all my amazing panelists here. Okay, I will read that. In the realm where circuits entwine and data flows, many women stand tall, their brilliance glows. Hima Bindu, with her mind like a storm, Kaustubha, in cloud computing, she transforms the norm. Kaustubha, a beacon of tech's vast sea. Usha, a community's expert. Her wisdom, a lighthouse for the many. In digital realms, she lights the way. Usha, with roots deep in code, a font of knowledge, a treasure trove. A community thrives under her care. In her wisdoms, they find their share. Krishna Priya, with experience vast, in tech's swift river, her anchors cast. Her expertise, like a guiding star, illuminates path near and far. Sahaj, the AI researcher, eyes alight with algorithms that dance in the night. Her creation, like dreams made real, unlock mysteries, the future they seal. Together, they forge a path so bright. In technology's realm, their light. Women of strength, wisdom, grace. In the tapestry of tech, they find their place. Each a pioneer in their own right. Together, their spirits take flight. In a world where technology reigns, their achievement like melodious refrains. Thank you, Hima. Thank you, Kaustubha. Thank you, Sahaj. Thank you, Krishna Priya. Thank you, Usha, for agreeing to come on my panel and making this panel a very special. This is the first panel, and we want to make it into a very beautiful one. So here goes my questions. I introduced generative AI. I introduced all the panelists using generative AI, ChatGPT. So the entire poem was composed by ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT knows all of you. You're also popular. And that says it all. So let us start off with it. I'll start with a question for Hima. And here it goes. Hima, can you discuss the technical challenges associated with developing generative AI models, particularly in terms of data requirements, computational resources, and model interpretability?
Yeah, sure. Yash, first of all, thanks. And I should thank the entire panel of speakers as well, because I think it's a quite a intensive session for sure. A little bit about me. Yes, I didn't start my career as an engineer, but I became quite passionate though. And coming from a space of psychology, I think generative AI is the next big space for me to start exploring because I'm into a lot of prompt engineering space. So that's where I'm coming in. And I do a lot of programs for deploying Gen AI. So that's where I bring my knowledge. So whatever that I have learned is what I share today. It's personally my learnings. So to start with, what are the couple of challenges that I've practically seen is from a data requirement and gathering perspective. See, the data is usually it's like you put garbage in, garbage is out, right? So attaining the high quality data takes a lot of time, a lot of energy and effort as well. And it's quite expensive today. So that is one of the challenges that we are facing today. And the data being just imagine when you're talking about legacy systems getting onto Gen AI, the kind of cleanup the data should go through to even to predict what we want to see as outcome, it's a lot of effort. And additionally, data should not have biases as well as it should point to the correct problem. So when we are looking at the first challenge itself is data itself is a challenge on its own, so that the model can operate in the right context, right? So these couple of pointers legitimately plays a role. Then coming down to computational resources, it's straightforward. So if you're trying to train a large data model, it requires significant computing resources. It's not only the hardware, it's also the infrastructure and the other distributed efforts that has to go inside the infrastructure training. It's not going to be sufficient. So the cost for all these resources are quite expensive. So that is the second challenge that we see as organizations want to transform and bring Gen AI on board. Model interpretability. See, when I talk about model interpretability, it's it's like you're talking to a deep learning models where you want them to literally interpret it as accurate as you want to see, right? So it should basically, it's sometimes I've seen that, in my own experience, some of them are not very transparent. It actually we call them a black box, right? Where what are the internal workings and how is it interpreting and giving that output? It's sometimes it becomes a little more. So for us to understand that and peel it off like onion and then go back and see, okay, now why is it deciding or putting out this as an output and correct that efforts becomes another effort on its own. Those errors corrections is an effort on its time consuming again. So those are the three areas. And the other two are pretty much, but what I have seen is like today you deploy Gen AI, and then, for a particular task in particular process, you figured out the areas where you want to automate it and, make generative AI play a big space in that process. What I've always seen is, business asking me, hey, do you know what would be, they want immediately that they want a transformation to become 100% accurate. It doesn't, it takes time, right? AI models take time to really get to a 80% accuracy. You need to train it with a lot of data. But it also comes to a point where we are not thinking enough is how do we evaluate the performance of generative models? Because evaluation is very much dependent on how a human looks at the outcome, right? And it's very customized and it's very task specific. So you need to actually benchmark your tasks. And that kind of thought process enabling the business to understand what we want to achieve or what they want to see. I think there's a lot of to and fro we go through. So when we are trying to put it down technically, I think we go through these roadblocks. And I even today, because since we are still evolving through this, we are not perfect with Gen AI. It's all the name for anything people say AI. It's not so. You literally need to go through the life cycle to understand honestly where exactly even Gen AI is required or traditional AI is good enough. So this is how I see technically how we are trying to maneuver these challenges. Challenges are there, but how is organizations doing today? See, it's very straightforward. Before you don't as organizations, they don't usually start Gen AI models from scratch. Okay, they go with already available large language models, which are like GPT-4 or Claude 3 or anything like that. They already start with it and they customize it. Customizing can happen by adopting different approaches, like you can do retrieval augmented generation, fine tuning, in context learning, all those things. So there are different ways to customize it, but customizing is what makes it effective. So we can't. I know we say just plug and play, but it's not necessarily. I come from a business context as well. I understand plug and play never happens. Even if it happens, it could happen just at a very minute level. But if you really want to see that end-to-end outcome that that business needs or solving a problem, you have to customize it. You have to drive it to a point where it's acceptable as a result, right? So with this said, I think how is organizations fighting the hyper cloud providers? I mean, this whole computation issue. They are actually going to hyper cloud providers, especially like AWS, Azure, and GCPs, because what they are doing is they are the giants who are sitting there, and they're actually giving you that hyperscaler capability along with certain tools which also can support your generative AI model training and everything, which is also gives you guardrail security. I think there are a lot of such things. For example, Microsoft gives you a suite of tools, okay, and GCP gives you a range of services for training you and managing your LLMs. It's all being given as a service itself. So you're not very challenged with it now, but you should understand how to use and which one to pick for what areas are you exploring to deploy, right? And one major challenge of hallucinating that happens most of the time when we are trying to deploy. See, this is where we need to be very careful, and that's where the security settings as well as your prompt engineering plays a role here. You need to be very careful in how you guard your entire algorithm and make it work to give you the absolute output that you need. So these are a couple of things, Yash, that came to my mind when you were asking me these questions around technical challenges. I just gave a both flavor of the exposure that I have. Hope it answered your question.
Yes, and I have a follow-up question, but I'll go in a round robin fashion, ask a question to everybody, and I'll come back to you. And that was really
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you. And my next question goes to Kaustuba, and that is, um, how does generative AI impact the creative industries? You just saw that I went to ChatGPT and asked for a poem. Uh, so the question we want to explore about the creative industries and what measures can be taken to protect artist rights while encouraging innovation.
That's a great question, Yashaswini, and I think everybody now has access to ChatGPT and other AI tools where we see people uh, from the creative industries are being impacted, like since the introduction of the new tools and techniques like which you can use to automate or assist you in the creation process. So it has pros and cons as well. So if you see domains like music or visual arts or literature, everywhere GenAI has been coming into a greater position here. And the AI can be trained on vast data sets, like it can use the existing ones and it can create new content automatically, and it can also be done with the collaboration of the creators, or it can also create it in a new process. So when such things are happening, like I think there are some of the music industries which have been using original pieces of music, and they've been using those and creating new compositions, and the AI is learning the patterns and it's generating new melodies, harmonies, everything which they've been using into all sorts of like the one which you use now, just the poem type of thing for an introduction of all of our panel, which was very great. So all this have been happening. So there should be some measures which must be taken to address these challenges also which we'll be facing. Something could be like there should be a clear ownership or copyright uh, guidelines which should be present. Like it should be establishing clear guidelines onto who has generated this work, or artists should also have the right for claiming the ownership, like the creative input that they are giving, which is contributed from the AI generated projects. They should also be receiving the appropriate credit. Only when Yashaswini went and put across all our names and what we are doing, then only we got the poem about us. So you should really get the ownership of it. It doesn't generate anything without your input, right? Like you should also have a copyright or ownership for the one which you've generated. So something like that should be present is one of the things which I think across. And also the transparency. Like if you want any AI generated works, I think it should be labeled to make others understand that this is AI generated and not a human generated ones. Like proper attribution also should be present, which will give for the human creators and also the AI algorithms. Like when you went and created a poem for all of us, there is an AI algorithm which will be running, and based on those contributions, the final output is what we are getting. So there should be a transparency on which will avoid the misleading of consumers and audiences. Like they should not be misleading them, telling that this has been generated by human, not by AI. So there should be works which should be labeled, so which will clear the misconceptions of who is creating it. And also one of the things which I think is licensing is also important. Like you need to have a licensing agreements for the AI generated works to ensure that the artist will receive the fair compensations, even though there should be something which are called revenue sharing models, which exist now. Like there are revenue sharings between the person who's created and the person who's using it. The same way we could do something between the human creators and AI developers or platforms who are creating those algorithms. So if they could have something like revenue sharing things and fair compensation for their contributions, maybe that could reduce some of the confusions, or it could increase the transparencies, is what I feel. And most importantly, I think the education and training part on the Gen AI it's not up to the mark, is what I feel. Like we need to provide education and training for artists and creators to effectively know how to utilize these tools to help them, to actually empower them while using these technologies. How can they control their creative output using this? And also it can help them adapt to the ever evolving digital landscape. So there should be some trainings for them, so that they just go back to ChatGPT, put some things and use it, but don't know what will be the consequences once there'll be any copyright issues, or what will be whatsoever will be happening. So there should be proper training for them. And the one more thing is like I feel like you need to have some ethical guidelines also. Like the one which we didn't, for example, when there was evolution of cloud, there were many issues which were happening. People had many thoughts about what will be the security if my data has been stored. Previously, when we were all kids, we were not having Google Drive to store all our photos or videos, or we didn't have every pop-up every once a year showing what are the memories we did in last year at the same time. So everything was in album type. But when the cloud evolved and they told that everything can be stored in the cloud, they also started establishing some guidelines and regulation. Like they established the regulatory frameworks for the use of it. So I think for Gen AI, I think we should have something like that, which will help this creative industries, maybe anything on the art or music or anyone, which will help them to mitigate any risks on plagiarism, like somebody else using the work which they've already done, or misusing some copyright materials. Such types of ethical guidelines will help us. Like it will help in balancing the innovations as well as safeguarding the interests of the artist rights. So we need to have some guidelines which will help them to do that. Maybe like, even though there are many things which you can do just with a snap and just with some typing of some input, I still feel that you should include diversity and inclusivity. Some part of the AI technologies can be used, and some part from having a creative artist from diverse backgrounds. Maybe I cannot create the same poem, even though I know who are all the panels here. You being added something else from your side. You have something creativity which is missing from my side, and your words will give a different type of a poem, and my thinking and my set of mindset will give a different type of poem. So we can actually support diverse creative voices, is what I feel. We should have AI as well as the humans uh, who will be benefited from the AI driven creativity, is what I feel. So having people from diverse backgrounds and perspectives will always give out a very impressive output, is what I feel. So if we try to implement such things, like we can utilize the AI as well as we can safeguard the interests and artist rights also. So it will promote like ethical ecosystem where everybody can thrive. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Kaustubha. And yes, we need to have them to safeguard the rights, is what we have to say. And moving on to the next question. Thank you for that, Kaustubha. I'll be moving on to the next question to Sahaj. Hi, Sahaj. The question that I have for you is, what role does generative AI play in the misinformation ecosystem, and what strategies can be implemented to mitigate its negative impacts?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And first of all, a really heartfelt gratitude to you for your amazing introductory poem. It was a very heartwarming welcome to all of us on the panel. So really appreciate your efforts on that. Now, moving on to the question we've asked. Misinformation is a very big issue to tackle these days. Now, this goes back to my journey during the initial days of my PhD when I started the research. Soon after I started my research, the pandemic came along in the March of 2020. We are celebrating almost 4 years into the pandemic now. Isn't that a long time? Just when the pandemic began, all of us, like be it common people or be it maybe people with the technical know-how or anyone involved, did not have the right amount of scientific information to know about how the virus works, like, or what are the symptoms, how they should behave in the public setting, or what kind of medicines they need to take, whom they should meet, what kind of isolation requirements are to be met, or what information or sources of information they need to look up to. So those were the kind of quandaries that people were suffering from. And that's what kind of piqued my interest. That's it. And back then, like almost during the beginning stages of pandemic, even the period of AI was, I would say, in an infancy stage compared to as it is right now. Especially we did not have tools like ChatGPT right then, right? So, but since we already had the traditional AI models and the neural networks, I thought, why not utilize these tools for the benefit of a larger section of society so that we can at least mitigate or minimize the unfair or unpredictable outcomes caused by these models and prevent certain groups or sections from being underrepresented. And there are a lot of conspiracy theories and misinformation going on around. And we all of us have seen a couple of examples related to it. But now when the component of generative AI comes into picture, things get only more challenging from here. Like you type in a prompt to your ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Microsoft Copilot, generates a comprehensive essay with maybe all the relevant references, citations, everything. So when you read it at a first glance, you feel like some domain expert has written it. But is it factually correct? Is it accurate? That's a big question mark here, right? Like you do not know, like on a first glance, it looks very compelling to read, and you just want to publish or share it with others, whatever ChatGPT has given to you. But then when you closely examine it, you will realize that it lacks that human level of cognition. It lacks the human level of touch that is required. And apart from that, on a more serious note, it may lead to factual inaccuracies and errors which you might not realize. This leads to a lot of spreading of misinformation, especially now that we have upcoming elections in large economies around the world like the United States, the European Union, India, and all of these countries, the larger economies of the world, are going through phases of election. And the problem of deepfakes, conspiracy theories, misinformation related articles have only seen an upward trend. Why is this happening? This is because of tools like ChatGPT or the content creation tools of generative AI that has given impetus to these kind of consequences. So, according to my belief, whenever these kind of generative AI tools or models are put into deployment, put into commercial purpose for utilization on a practical basis, then we need to ensure that there are proper safety guardrails surrounding the usage of these systems. Otherwise, they may lead to a lot of undesired consequences, which might bear more undesired outputs, which are not relevant and which is something which we might not want. We want it to serve for a greater good to the society rather than the other way around. And that's why, with the advent of generative AI, misinformation has become a pressing issue, especially in these larger democracies of the world, as I mentioned, with the upcoming elections. And we need to see that responsible adoption of generative AI is ensured. There are proper guidelines and protocols set in place so that no group or section remains underserved or underrepresented, and it works for benefit for a broad ranging section of the society rather than just a fragmented section or just a section of the society.
Thank you, Sahaj. Thank you for enlightening us about the misinformation and the impact it has on the society. Awareness is the first step. Knowing about it is the
Absolutely.
first step.
Yes, building foundational AI literacy is the first step towards combating this kind of misinformation. Only when you are aware that ChatGPT can lead you to factual errors, only then you will kind of go through the iterations twice or thrice and modify the corrections, right? But if you are not aware that it will lead to these kind of errors, how will you modify it?
Yes. Thank you, Sahaj. And I will move to the next question to Krishna Priya. Krishna Priya, the question I have for you is, how can we foster an inclusive environment in the AI field, ensuring diverse perspective and equitable access to AI technologies?
Sure. So let me introduce myself briefly. So thanks again, Yash, for the amazing introduction you have given. So I have been in the data engineering side, and I have seen the challenges with the data being, at various organizations, how data handling or what kind of data challenges are faced when building solutions, especially the solutions within AI or generative AI. Coming to your question about the generative AI being more inclusive and being available, I think it's again, we have seen the emergence of generative AI, where it is now used or it's kind of democratized, where people are using these tools for creating various solutions or various contents and posting across the platforms as well, right? So this has actually given reason to numerous amounts of challenges as well in terms of the ethical practices of AI. But at the same time, there are several use cases which could be helpful. For example, in the education industry, if we are using the AI solutions, it can take the training, the content, even to the locations or even to the people who are probably not having access to this information, if not of this technology. I mean, probably because of the geographical challenges or because of the socioeconomic challenges, right? So these technologies have really provided that accessibility of various use cases through AI. I mean, again, the healthcare side as well. We have seen how AI has been helping in providing solutions, even when we do not have direct accessibility through through remote applications as well.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna Priya. And I think experience over over many years will show us how these waves come and how they affect the ecosystem. So generative AI is also a wave. I think we have to just let it come and pass and see what's next. So thank you, Krishna
Yeah,
Priya.
and these are just the beginning use cases that we are seeing. And there is definitely a huge, I think, scope or progression that we would see in these technologies in the future. Like imagine there is a teacher who is, Gen AI in combination of AR, augmented reality technology, where, a teacher can create a replications of himself or herself and then teaching across various classrooms, right? I mean, this is just the beginning. I think there is a lot that would come up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Krishna Priya. And my next question is a follow-up question to Hima, to what she mentioned that time. She said she's from the psychology background. Hima, we would want to hear how important is psychology when it comes to AI and AI engineering. Because here the AI is impacting the society, it's impacting the minds of the people at every level. It is coming just the way I made the poem. It's coming up with poems, it's coming up with blogs, it makes images in a jiffy. So, what impact it has on the psychology is something that I want to ask you and get to know about it.
Sure, yes. Thanks for touching my most, passionate topic. So, see, when you talk about psychology, psychology is all dealing with people and their mindset and how the brain works. And what we are dealing with in generative AI or the AI models are the neural networks. So, whatever that happens is how a human thinks cannot be completely replaced inside AI today. But is that going to be a future state of affairs? Yes, it could happen. But there is still my vouch on the table is it can never replace a human unless the human allows it to be replaced. So I always go with this thought process when you're dealing with models of AI and you're building something, ask the right questions first thing because and train it for without bias because that's where I think we mess up the entire system. If you don't induce the right ethics inside, which exactly what you're working into, it will obviously flaw the entire system. Today you think so. It's a very simple thing. Okay, I was telling my son was going through his, he's in his 10th and he was trying to talk about an essay on character, right? How do you build a character? So what you think is what you speak, and what you speak, if you put that into actions, is what builds your character. So when all these three work in the right context, it actually builds up a right personality. So we are the ones who have to be in control of what we think, is to what we speak, is to what we do, is to what we execute, is what we give the impression outside. So AI is no different. So you make it think what it should think, then it's all in your hands to make it code the right way. So that's a bit of the internal psyche. And when you were talking about, I would like to cover this additional stretch into the context. Today, we are talking AI. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk something else. Tech landscape is going to keep changing. Cloud came, today AI has come, tomorrow something else will come. This transformation will not stop. Now, this is where the psychology of mindset change comes in. And this is what I preach every time when I give a talk, in whatever context and platform, whoever it is, be it young to the working class, and even, the people who have hit leadership. I tell only one thing, have an anti-fragile mindset. See, I know this term anti-fragile is very new right now, and but this is a book written by Nicholas Taleb. You have to really pick that up. It inspired me greatly. He talks about Anti-fragile, that means it goes beyond being resilient. Why am I talking about resilience and being anti-fragile? I think one of the speakers in the panel spoke about, there's a new change, it will keep coming. I think even Yash, you said that, okay, we'll come, let it pass. No, I think the term here that I'm trying to say is anti-fragile talks about being going beyond being resilient. It actually allows you to evolve in that process. So if any disruption comes, you're not just living that for that moment, but you're evolving along with it. That is where your mindset change comes in. So you're accepting the disruption for your own advantage to evolve yourself into a new space of possibility and opportunities. And that's where the psychology plays, right? And that's all with us to do. When I'm talking about this, I want to lay stress on the fact that Gen AI works hand in hand along with this transformation. We are just augmenting it. It may displace certain jobs, but it may not necessarily remove humans completely. That could be a very future-led thing, which I don't might eventually happen. But today, if you ask me, Hima, will it kind of displace some jobs? Of course, it will. It will displace jobs which are repetitive in task. It will replace jobs which are very data driven because it can analyze for you. It can create the content. Anything that is repeatable will be replaced. So there'll be new jobs though. That's what we have to think. That's what the anti-fragile mindset will tell you. You know, it is displacing and closing and shutting doors somewhere, but a lot of other doors are opening. And I want people to start absorbing this energy of anything that disrupts will only give rise to a new beginning. And that is where we have to start embracing. Beyond learning new technology, it's also the mindset in which we approach the tech, which is also important. So today, Gen AI is an augmentation over automation. So it's not necessarily that it is going to replace, but it will actually create new opportunities. And we have to ask four simple questions. What will AI replace today, right? What will it take away from me? What will it not take away from me? What is that I need to do to make sure that it can basically evolve along with me? And overall, what is that? Which problem can I solve along with AI? So when you ask these questions, you are not in a position of being a victim to the change. Rather, you're being an enabler, and you're actually using that change as a tool to enhance yourself. So this is how I use psychology for, anything, even in the business context. You need to understand what is the actual problem I'm solving. If anything you do solves a problem, you're in the game. Irrespective of it, you using AI or any other tech or no tech, it's your strategy. You need to understand that what problem are you solving. Then you become competitive in the market, right? That's how we should approach this, transformation or the new wave of AI and Gen AI coming into our spaces of the industry. This is my answer. I hope I could answer that question.
Thank you, Hima. Thank you for giving us that perspective, and it's very valuable to us. Thank you. And
Yash, can I add something?
Yeah.
This whole topic of psychology is much bigger. I just saw a psychologist enter the room here on Zoom. I think we are going to have to face the reality of how psychology is being used with data, with AI in building applications and systems. So there are two perspectives, right? One is if you're looking at it from a technology industry, there's a lot of excitement. Even the previous speaker was talking about, creative industry and compensating them. There is one perspective of building AI as a technologist who is building out the models. And in Gen AI, we are still in early stages. Like you said, the tech industry wave will come and go. And we are in that wave where there is so much excitement from technology industry, from technologists who are building the models and who are saying what is possible with these models. And then there is the other side of the application of people who are on the receiving end. So I think when you talk about psychology, it kind of plays into people who are passive listeners, or who are on the receiving end of this, unaware of it. They didn't ask for it. right? Sometimes you don't ask for it and everything becomes AI, and AI is, they're using your data and they are building stuff with it. So I think one of the things is this example of have a teacher clone themselves and then teach multiple classes. As a teacher, I don't want to be cloned. I don't think that is a use case that I would encourage anybody to build, while I would encourage the technologies who has the mind power and the knowledge to go build that kind of technology should think about, can I build a really critical problem that the world needs? I think that is the call of the hour with Gen AI. It's not just like this is possible with technology. It's possible with technology. We have the power. What can we build? What is not what we should be asking? What should we be building? What problem should we be solving for?
Solving,
So
yes.
to add that, and we are going to be visiting the psychology topic, in different aspects. I actually have a student who has combined law with with psychology to make law accessible to people, that we'll be talking about later in the sessions today.
Thank you for
And
that. I think when you're talking about psychology and the user interface, the receiver who's going to receive this
Yes.
product out, I think it's a huge, that's where we should be very careful about how we are building the models, because you're literally building a next new generation with this. So we need to be very careful about what we want to solve for the betterment of the humanity overall. It's just not
Yeah.
about solving problems for industries anymore. There is a lot of mental gap teenagers are going through today, that they are seeing and they're exposed to so much information, and that's where we need to help them, get them into a focused, into a streamlined content that should be helpful for groups, right? So I think that is a problem that I'm trying to see through psychology. How could I build up a model that can stream the right content with the right context for children of a particular age group? Because if my son is going to 10th, then he needs a specific set of study material. There's so much battling him out with information. School itself is getting confused. I think we need to help the education industry with some, specific, focused, very clear information that they can help students to build their careers with, because it's a chaos already, because we've just started with all this. So we need help there.
Yeah. So I think you've seeded some good thought, and we'll pick it up in the AI ethics panel, because we have a set of AI ethicists who will be doing that. I think in the afternoon session, right after lunch session, is AI ethics. So thank you for at least getting us to think about this from multiple perspectives. I appreciate that. Thank you.
thank you, Hima. Thank you for joining the panel. And Hima has a hard stop now. She needs to be let go. Thank you for your perspectives. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Sudha. I mean, I think this is a great thing. I would have loved to stay back. I have a 4 a.m. call again in the morning, so I don't want to sleep over. So I'm just pressing myself to get up in the morning. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
thank you, Hima. And my next question is for Usha.
Yes, you went off mute. You went on mute.
Sorry. Usha, coming from a community perspective and a technology perspective, the question I have for you is, what are the most significant ethical considerations in the development and deployment of generative AI, and how we can address them? So we are talking about the various ethical issues in generative AI. It could be bias, privacy, and potential misuse. We want to hear your perspective on this. And there is yet another question that I can have, which is very close to my heart. And I think you're the best person to answer that. And that is, how can we use generative AI to contribute to solving global challenges such as climate change, healthcare, and education? Because I want to give a brief intro about Usha, how I came to know about Usha. Usha used to do this amazing stuff for autism and the neurodiverse community. And we have seen Usha put her heart and soul into projects which makes the difference at the grassroots level. And please shed some light on how we can use generative AI to solve global challenges, Usha.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yashwini, for giving me an opportunity to be part of the panel and the other organizers who are organizing the entire event as well. So I'm unable to come in video mode because there's a power cut in Bangalore. So I'll just quickly show you the power cut. So unusual, it's like you're seeing all black, right? So it's unusual. My area is in Indiranagar in Bangalore. So it's an area where you get power cut once in 2 years. So unusually today it is got, and so I'm running on mobile Wi-Fi. That's why I think it's better I put my video off. And coming back to the questions, yeah, thank you for bringing up autism and in this panel, because this is Autism Awareness Month and this is April, and so there's a lot of advocacy which is happening. I predominantly advocate through AI for autism. So right now I've been discussing this autism for AI use cases with Yaswini, and there were other group of people also during that time. When I was discussing at that point of time, it was just an idea in mind. But right now, I've full-fledged put the 4 use cases into implementation, and it's out there in my GitHub repository. You have a fully end-to-end working use cases in my GitHub repository, and there's also a demo which you can test it out in Hugging Face. So the use cases, and to briefly summarize, my advocacy is around AI for autism, and it's only specifically for people on the higher end of the spectrum, because on the there are people on the autism spectrum where you require clinical interventions, and there are other conditions which AI cannot solve. So for people on the higher end of the spectrum, some of the challenges which they face is understanding emotions in multiple modalities like voice, text, and speech as well. So right now, this is an era where there's a lot of multimodal models which is coming up. If you take Gemini Vision Pro and Gemini, these are all multimodal models which can help you understand emotions just using a single model. You can understand emotions at multiple modalities. So this is an era of multimodal LLMs where it can help advance this field in a larger scale. And I've put a use case demo where I'm using both Gemini Pro and I'm using Gemma as well for text emotion detection. You can go check out the entire code and the demo at my GitHub repository. And this entire 4 use case and other use cases, the 3 use cases are the 3 different modalities: text, facial emotion, and speech. The first use case is about early detection of autism. So for a child, the brain takes about 5 years to develop completely. So if you can detect autism at 12 to 18 months of time, then early detection of autism can play a crucial role in the child living an there's high probability the child might end up living a very independent life. So that's why there's a lot of research papers around early detection of autism using MRI scans, but there's not sufficient scientific evidence yet. But I've used the data set to put together an end-to-end use case. I think Yaswini has also done it as a part of her the same project. I think I evaluated Yaswini's project as well. I mean, you can also check her project out. And this is about AI for autism. And with regards to this entire 4 projects has been recently featured in Intel developers blog success stories as well. I can pass it on to Yaswini and she can, forward it to the entire group. So if you want to understand the background of the use cases, how generative AI can help in AI for autism, everything is clearly written in that blog. And so I'll pass it on to Yaswini and she'll forward it to the rest of you all. And with regards to the ethical considerations, the bias, I think there's a lot of, especially in generative AI, there is a lot of bias involved in image generation, text generation. There's a lot of hallucinations. ChatGPT is great, but then, you might have to have human in the loop to evaluate what content is being generated by these large language models and image generations as well. So right now there's been a lot of spark in after a particular LLM has been released by one of the farm companies. There's a lot of lot of rumor and spark because that particular LLM was generating the historical figures wrong. So there is again a lot of we are still not in that perfect era where the text generation and the image generation is so 100% perfect. There's still a lot of work which has to be done in terms of bias and fairness of these models. So there are certain use cases where it could even harm and result in human death, especially in areas like law and justice. There are certain areas where mistakes of AI can end up costing a human life as well. So that is why there should be a lot of regulations around these areas in evaluating these models. There are a lot of countries without regulations and they are considering it, but still we don't have a standard set of regulations coming out for evaluating these large language models, and they are being randomly used in a lot of companies here, especially in country like India, where there's just discussion of regulations happening within this. Still nothing concrete which has happened yet, and a lot of companies and startups have already started using these models. So that's a concerning factor, and especially in areas like healthcare, there's a lot of diffusion models particularly used in generation of synthetic data. So these are areas where there's not sufficient evidence of how how appropriate it is to use these diffusion models for generation of synthetic data set, especially in use cases where diagnostic cases like generation of anomalies from MRI scans and all these things. All these MRI images are being generated by diffusion models and image generation models. So there's not sufficient proof or evidence to say using these synthetically generated data sets we might be able to get a better model which generalizes well and which performs with better fairness and things like that. So that's an area where there's really a lot of work which has to be done. And one more concerning factor
Sorry,
is
guys, I
the
hate to
thing
be the
is
bad. I'm sorry, I hate to be the bad cop, but we are kind of past our panel session because you had so many experts and so much topic to cover now, Yash. If you can wrap up this topic, then maybe, panel, we want to bring in ENA from South Sudan. And I promise to keep the time schedule for speakers who are coming in from their meetings and stuff. Usha, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize, but I think you could come in and do a whole session. We do this thing called Weekly Wednesday where we have 1 hour for speakers. So maybe you can come in and talk to us more in detail about that. I'll really, really want to learn from you.
Sure. It would be my pleasure. And I think, we should be considerate of time because it's really late and then I
Yes.
think it's a better option to wrap it up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate you coming in spite of, the power cut and everything. Thank you so much. Yash, if you want to just say some words and wrap up the panel, that because you had so many different perspective and topics. If you want to wrap up the panel, then we can call ENA on stage.
Yeah, we are good. Thank you, Kaustubha. Thank you, Krishnapriya. Thank you, Usha Rengraju and Hima Bindu and Sahaj Vaidya. Thank you, everybody, for coming and sharing your perspectives. Join us on Weekly Ved. Weekly Ved is our speaker session series that happens every Wednesday. We would love to have you all there. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much, Yash. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, team. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. So with that, I'm so happy because what I actually thought Yash would do, a good job of setting the stage. And we opened up the whole day to a lot of different topics on psychology and AI in creative roles and, our responsibility and the technical challenges. It's just a lot. But we are going to move forward. So thank you so much, Yash. And I know it's late for you. Hope you can stay on for a little bit. So that will help, with your contributions in there. The next person is Yine, and Roxy is running late, so it worked out good for us that, it's very hard to find Roxy's time. So I'm glad that, we can keep up our schedule. So Ine, if you're ready, I'm happy to bring you on stage.
Yes, Sudha. Yes.
And you need share access, right?
Do I just
Are you going to
sleep?
show something? I thought you were going to show some video of some kind.
I don't know if I even downloaded it. Wait for close.
Do you want to show it or not? Is the question. We can make magic
No, I
happen.
think, yeah. I just a second.
Yeah. And if you can just come on camera, if it's not a hassle, that's great. If not, I'm not going to force anybody. I appreciate that.
Today it's a hassle. Earlier it was okay,
Okay.
but now it's a
So,
hassle. So
okay, so I'm going to go off stage. Yine Yenki, as I said in the beginning when we got started, is somebody who has made me think about what I am doing because, I teach in multiple places. I do a lot of different other activities and research, and I do a lot of this community organization of, events like this. And so I just realized that what am I doing that needs to create better impact? And Ine is somebody who lives on that, right? And got me thinking about language AI. A different student of mine got me thinking about inclusion in language AI, but Ine actually practices that. So why don't I give the floor to Ine? And Ine, tell us about your amazing work, and introduce yourself so that you can do better justice than I'm a Ine fan kind of intro. And then tell us what you do.
oh my God. I do so many things. But to start with, I love change. So okay. Okay. I'm known
And
as
you,
Ine Yenkinyika, so that's that you're smiling. Yes. I'm the co-founder and mentorship director of Google's ICT initiative, an initiative that focuses on mentorship of girls really to pick interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I also sit on the board of the National Communications Authority, that is South Sudan's ICT and telecommunications regulatory body. I'm also a member of board of trustees of the University of Juba Innovation Lab, precisely known as Unipod. Those are how many? Three. Then I'm also the Access to Skills and Knowledge Network coordinator. So it's a hub of 9 different organizations which are South Sudanese led. So some are in South Sudan, some are in the refugee camps. And of recent, I've been selected to sit on the steering committee of the National Development Research Center by the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, and Innovation in South Sudan.
so there seems to be a common theme that you're actually bringing more people into science, and you're leading your country to collaborate with others in that sense. I knew only about your Go Girls ICT to get more girls into the STEM field. And you're working on something with refugees, right? Because we said that as the
Yes.
topic today. So talk to us about
Yes.
that. Yes.
So interestingly, for this particular segment, I think the group which is so dear to my heart, it's now the group that personally, I met in one of my trips last year when I went to the refugee camp. It's known as the Creative Innovation Center, which was founded by young South
Which
Sudanese
refugee camp?
refugees.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So we
So,
have like a national group of people from every possible time zone here. So give us some context, because one of the things I
okay.
know that I am part of several different Slack groups and groups on IoT and AI. And so I know there's a lot of activity happening in the language space with Masakane and all in the African countries and languages. But what you're talking about is specifically South Sudan focus, right? So tell us about which refugee camp, and then tell me more about this organization, this
So
council.
I think to backtrack because of the war that happened in 2016 in South Sudan, most of our fellows or South Sudanese who are staying closely to most of the border countries actually moved out of the country. But particularly the refugee camp that I'm talking about, it's in a district called the Rhino Camp. I mean, it's in a district called Terego in a city called the Rhino Camp in northern Uganda. So last year, being part of the Access to Skills and Knowledge Network coordinator, I took a trip to visit and also find out what are the young men and women doing. And that led us to several youth-led initiatives. But I think one that really stood out was the Creative Innovation Center, which I think I spent most of my time interacting with them. And why them specifically? What's so unique and beautiful about the youth at the Creative Innovation Center is it's their power to promote environmental conservation by harnessing electronic waste to engineering possibilities. So what they did was when they came into this community, one of the young men, I think he's around 23, had some skills in electronics and how to repair different electronic devices. So he encouraged the community to always keep bringing the electronics for him to repair of electronics at his space. So what he did was he started exploring and start thinking into which kind of devices, which kind of automated products can I build using this electronic waste that I'm collecting. So during the time of my visit, which is about 9 months ago, not 9 years ago, we found them with quite a number of different prototypes of different electronic products that they had built out of waste. And for him, he said for ever since they launched this initiative in 2020, they had wished to always find a way of how goggles and them could work together. So here we were at this refugee settlement with them. And of course, we saw the different various products, that the different prototypes that they had built for the community, and also the extended hand that they had given to science students, trying to show them the practicability of sciences within the refugee settlement, and also try to involve more women. But to be very, I think to narrow it, we gave them, I remember, was how far can some of these products actually reach the market. So we were challenging them to think of how best could they take some of these products that they are designed into the market. So after our engagement, I remember we also came and met with another startup that was doing something similar, but for them, they are not recycling electronic waste, but they have the skills of electronics. So we sat down with that startup and also brought in the CIC team that we met. And our conversation was, how do we mentor these young men in the refugee settlement to make sure that they produce electronics that can go to the market, that people can buy, so that they could use the resources to continue to build on their capacity as young refugees. That's in summary.
That's amazing. That's amazing. One of the things I always loved about you is, obviously you want to, mentor and create programs to get more people into STEM programs, but it's pretty hands-on, right? So, and with Go Girls ICT, the first time I met you, you were not just saying, we're going to teach them AI or we're going to teach them programming, which is easy, right? There's a lot of bring girls to coding exercise. I'm not downplaying that, but to get them to build something so that they can actually, build something more hands-on is needed, because only software is not going to feed us, right? We have, everything has like a manufacturing component to that. So I appreciate that on and your, bias to action, as Yash taught me that word. Your bias to action, what you do, you just don't talk about it, you make that happen. So thank you so much for sharing that. We don't have too much time. I hope you can hang around a little bit longer. And like I was talking to our previous speaker, we would love for many of you who have more to talk to us and teach us to come back to Weekly Wednesday, which we host on Wednesday mornings on the same channels at Business School of AI. So I hope I will continue to, explore more and learn from you, Yeni. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Sudha. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.
I'll hang around. Yes.
Yes, I appreciate that. Okay. And
Yeah.
one of the things this afternoon, I think this video went live yesterday from Ruth Naduta from Ghana. And I'm seeing a lot of, first I saw that there was a lot of engineering and technology in language AI. And what you were bringing was into, IoT and building electronics. And now I'm seeing a whole movement on innovation and startup innovation. And that's happening differently in different countries, right? And we need some kind of tracking for that. And so Ruth Naduta is working on a startup on, how to measure the impact assessment of startups and create a platform and use technology to make that happen, to foster innovation and startup growth in Africa. And so I'll be showing a little bit of her session in the Africa segment in the afternoon. For those of you who are intrigued by that, stay tuned. So next we have this Women in AI Canada panel coming in. And let me bring Frenzy here on stage. Hi, Frenzy. Thank you for organizing this. Frenzy is one of those people. One of the common themes you will see from many women is like they do a lot of different things. And I'll tell you, when we come to the career panel, there is a reason we do a lot of different things because we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of passion, we have a lot of capability. And I think my personal experience early on, very young in my career, was I had so much energy and organization skill, and I was an engineer. And so I was just given the coding programming jobs. I moved out of it to do other things. But at that point, I felt like, I could not convince them to give me more things to do that was interesting, for which I was paid. They were ready to let me do stuff, but not ready to pay me. Right. And so I realized I started this other organization. I would speak in different places. It kind of helped, expense my energy in a very creative way. So I find that a lot of women do that. They have amazing organization leadership skills, build communities, and go mentor a lot of other people. And they build projects that go change the world, additional to their day job. And so let me get off the stage and let Frenzy tell you about Women in AI Canada. And then you can bring in your Canada panelist, Frenzy. Take it away.
Thank you, Sudha. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. It was a quick panel that we put together. We have our amazing panelists who are also Women in AI community members and our team members who have joined us as panelists today to share their journeys and their day-to-day life with, being in at a workplace in AI. So before we get into the panel, and also introducing our panelists, I just wanted to start with a quick introduction to Women in AI, which is who we are all representing today, so that you know what our community stands for, and then we'll quickly start with our panel discussion. So I'm just gonna start sharing my screen, and I hope you're able to see. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, so I just want to give a quick overview of what Women in AI does. In short, we are a global community working towards shaping inclusive AI, and our mission is to advance female participation in AI. So we operate, sorry, are you able to? Okay. Yeah. So our ambition is to help women with get more job ready skills and to advance their career in AI. And also we have a very good focus on promoting the use of responsible AI. So globally, we are present in 150 countries. We have launched in 2017 in Paris. In each country, we operate through chapters and ambassadors and city leads and program leads. In Canada, we launched in October 2020. So over the past 3 years, we have about 1,250 members, 50 plus volunteers. We have chapters in 7 plus cities. We are just going to launch our new city chapter next month. And if you look at our membership, we have 64 percentage masters or PhD students. So we have like a very good, intelligent or educated group of women who we have reached out to yet. But we are looking to get in more and more access and exposure to our community across Canada. So far we have organized about 70 plus programs and initiatives, and we bring diverse women in different levels of their career into our programs. So last year itself we had 40% growth in membership. We've done about 30 events, just ourselves and also in partnership with other organizations. Our the biggest community we have is in Toronto, and then we have Montreal, Calgary, and others. Then if you look at the seniority of our community, we have equal representation from senior professionals as well as entry level professionals. And we run our programs through, again, the passionate team of leaders. They are all 100% volunteer run, volunteer run initiatives, and these are the leaders who run all of our programs, all of our city chapters. And with them, there are 50 plus volunteers, and kudos to all of them for bringing all the successes to our events. So as organizations, we get sponsorships and stuff, but as individuals, it is free to join. We are all 100% volunteers, and we open our opportunities to those who are interested to contribute just like ourselves and are passionate about our mission. So our programs are run under 3 verticals: inspire, educate, and connect. And I'm not going to go in detail because we need to get to the panel as well. So, a flagship event called as Women in AI Awards North America. Last year, we celebrated 100 plus women. Actually, Sudha was also one of the female we celebrated. And that's how I got to know about her as well.
That's right. That's right. I forgot. It was amazing company, an amazing amount of organization, and how you went through. It's not like you called on other women, but you had a very thorough nomination process. So I felt very honored. I wish I could have attended live in Toronto, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sudha. Thank you so much for the nice words. So these are some pictures from our awards celebrations. And, these are all, again, volunteer-run initiatives. We have panel discussions on important topics. We have a mini conference that we organize called as Y Symposium. We also spotlight some of our members. Again, through Inspire, we want to celebrate more women, like Sudha, like all of you actually, and bring that limelight so that others can see themselves in you, and come or enter or advance their career in AI. So we have an educate program for teen girls. We have technical workshops. We have a hackathon, which is a full-fledged 4-week program with workshops and mentoring and everything involved to build a. And I'm very happy to say that one of the hackathon project became a startup. Like last year's project became a startup in the early 2024, and it's so nice to see women-led founders coming out of our startups. We have also had career coaching, like general resume preparation, LinkedIn branding sessions, one-on-one career coaching. We have one-on-one mentorship program. We have in-person networking. Then these are some of the pictures from our networking events in Quebec, Toronto. We also did in-person career fairs, which was a huge success. In Ontario, we started with Ontario. We had 23 organizations coming, about more than 900 registrations. And with that, we had the opportunity to reach to a lot of recruiters as well as diverse talent in AI, where they could come together and get in front of the hiring managers. So we broke that barrier with this career fair. Similarly, we did it in Edmonton, we did it in Calgary, we also did it in Montreal and Quebec. So this the first year we ran this itself was really scaled, and we had a great success. We are going to repeat again this year. So we also partner with a lot of conference and bring our community together, so that they get the opportunity to be present and engage and network with the community. So these are some or some conferences we did at Red Deer, in Montreal, in this is again in Edmonton, uh, and again another Calgary and Edmonton. This is a Toronto event we did in November, another event in November as well. So we have some sponsors. These are all the sponsors who have supported us over the years in the last 3 years. So we run with the help of volunteers, but there are some sponsors who support us for our initiatives that require some funding, that needs funding or sponsorship to run those events. But we are always looking for opportunity to support the community and understand the needs, where is the need and the demand, and then offer support in that place. So this is a quick and introduction. I'll post some links in the chat just for the website and details later. But I'm very happy to introduce our panelists for today. So today we are going to talk about navigating the challenges and best practices in AI project lifecycle. And I'm very excited to introduce the amazing panelists we have today. So we have three women. They are part of our Women in AI team, as well as they held very responsible roles in the AI community as well. So first I have Kathy Ong Lee. She's our national marketing lead for Women in AI Canada, as well as she's pursuing her PhD in medical biophysics at the University of Toronto. So she's a researcher and she's very passionate about merging the bridge between AI and healthcare. Now we have Pragriti Eliawadi. She's a data science manager with a master's in management analytics, and she has 4 years of banking analytics experience and machine learning experience. And she's proficient in end-to-end data and model pipeline. And she's also working a lot with Gen AI products. So we also have Riddhi Dasani. She's a senior data scientist with Deloitte with more than 6 years of experience and developing and deploying machine learning, deep learning, and Gen AI solutions to solve real world problems. So we have an amazing group of panelists here. I'm very excited to have them. Welcome, Pragriti, Riddhi, and Kathy for the panel. Okay, so let's get right into the topic. So we have been, seeing a lot of recent changes. AI is always changing and evolving. So I would like to maybe start with Kathy, since your name comes first. Would you like to talk about, or all of you would like to talk about, what are some of the recent change, trends or innovations that is happening in the field of AI that you're most excited about?
Sure. So I'll start. I think I'm interested in seeing how AI can be used for things like personalized healthcare, as we're starting to see AI models move into the clinic, how we can use AI to diagnose, treat, and manage diseases on a more individual level, and how that'll revolutionize how we treat patients.
That's awesome. Pragati or Drishti, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, for sure. So, in terms of finance, I would say that there are lots of advanced methodologies that are coming towards the credit scoring side, fraud detection. Again, like as to Kathy's point, personalized recommendations for our customers as well. One of the things that kind of is striking on that side is I'm working with University of Alberta research students on a project which is like reject inference analysis for credit lending. And they have been using like very advanced methodologies of like unsupervised learning, DMOM or deep Markov models. So that's quite interesting and advanced because banks are like highly regulated. So all these advanced methodologies, they slowly come in, but they really make an impact. And then another aspect is the generative AI. Like, oh, I think we can't go without leaving it out, right? Like generative AI is like everywhere on the LinkedIn posts. So that's something that our bank has also adopted in terms of increasing operational efficiency within the bank. So that's definitely something that's booming.
Good, Ravi.
Yeah, I can go next. First of all, thank you so much, Francie, for this wonderful question. And I've been thinking about it. Like, there are just so many things that are pretty interesting happening in this world, right? And the one thing that strike out is, if you happen to know, there is NVIDIA GTC event happened just last week, right? So there is something called Project Groot. If you don't know, just heads up on that is we are getting into not just like text or voice wise interacting with outer world, but there is a humanoid that's coming from NVIDIA. So now we have computation power, we have lots of data, lots of modality as well. So what it is doing is mimicking human behavior just by observing and learning that what's happening around the world. So that's pretty exciting. And that will definitely go with what Kathy and Prakriti was telling us, that we need more assistant from AI. We are not talking about it's taking over the world, but that sounds pretty interesting if they can just observe us and get some intelligence from our actions itself. So yeah, that's what I think it's gonna be the future, and very excited to see that happening.
So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Kathy, Prakriti, and Riti, for sharing your thoughts and where your interest lies in. It is so hard to keep up with all that is happening. And because there is so much innovation happening, and at the same time, organizations are also trying very hard to adopt AI in their industry, in their organizations, and the challenges are not going away, and the challenges exist in every phase of your AI project lifecycle. So, you can go in any order. Whoever can start, if you'd like to. If Can you discuss a little bit more detail about, the challenges and best practices in data collection and processing when initiating an AI project or use case?
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah. Maybe I can start there. So like lately we have been working on a critical like model redevelopment process. So we do have our models inbuilt in the system, but they are very, very old. So we have to like develop them again. So in that process, we have to like collect data for our own customers. However, our data has been like is not centralized. It's stored in different servers in different platforms. So just like gathering those data in terms of accessibility of the tables, accessibility of the platforms, and then just general like inefficiencies in terms of volume, veracity, or velocity of the data, right? So like because we are pulling data from so many different sources, we have to like merge them, process them, and transform them to get something which is useful and meaningful for us. We might not necessarily have data dictionaries associated with all the tables. So that's another challenge. We have to like guess, which is not the best way, but it's something that we have to do. We have to discuss with our stakeholders of which variables are important. So like really a lot goes into the data collection process, and it takes over months to just collect our own customers' data, which is unfortunate, but I think it's very true for a lot of like legacy systems and companies which are very like old. So that is one of the challenges. However, some of the best practices that we intend to follow is first of all making sure that we are actually listing all the data dictionaries out. So even if we don't have it, we are making our own. And in terms of documentation and commenting the code, that is also very, very critical. So whatever you do, whichever data you are pulling, just document it so that the validation team knows that, okay, this is where you are getting the data. Maybe this is like a regulated source or a validated source already. So that is another practice. And then one thing that I really found useful and was taught by my managers and senior management was to keep the stakeholders in loop, really, because all of this data collection process takes a lot of time, and communicating those delays or making that effort to actually tell the stakeholders that, okay, we are at this stage, we need this help, we are at this blocker, and this is how much time it's going to take. So that's also very, very crucial and something not really all teams do.
Mhm.
Francie, I want to ask a question if that's okay for Pragati. Is that all right? Okay, thank you.
We
So,
have Q&A towards the end, Sudha, but
okay, I can wait then. I'll wait. I have
okay.
a question. Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
So Kathy, Rudeep.
Yeah, I can go next. So one of the biggest struggles with dealing with AI projects in healthcare is that data privacy is a huge thing. You know, there's a lot of data that is unavailable as a result of maintaining patient privacy. So a lot of the data is limited and hospitals don't share data either. So building generalizable models and getting labeled results is another big challenge. You know, we don't always have labels, and getting labels for things such as like the nerves in the brain or the vessels in the heart to build these AI models is very challenging. It's also very time consuming to request, you know, doctors or medical professionals to provide those labels. And then lastly, deployment of AI models in healthcare is also particularly challenging due to gaining the trust of medical professionals and also addressing the issue of explainability and how these models work to them. And in terms of practices, building off of what Pragiti said, documentation is so important. I agree. Like, you know, write everything down and then also figuring out a way of how you're going to fill in the missing data because there is often messy and missing data in healthcare.
Yeah. I guess I can go next. So, getting Prakriti and Kathy just covered all the things that which is needed. Like there are just so many sources that you can gather your data from, and to get this point, there are just so many missing data. A lot of information is missing, and there is a privacy and bias concerns as well. So I'll talk a little bit about data collection and data pre-processing is the most crucial step in throughout the machine learning lifecycle because whatever garbage in, garbage out, as we say it, that if you don't have control over what you are feeding your model, then don't expect good results either because then your intelligence is lost in that. So I have been working in consulting for just so many years now and have touched on images data, text data, structure data, and it feels like the most challenging part of it is that machine learning engineer comes into picture right after data is collected. So we spend most time understanding that what's there in my data. So data collection is really, really important. At the same time, understanding your data and just like choosing what you're feeding. That should not be biased, that should not be skewed by any means, and all those concerns. So challenges are definitely there, and that's why we spend the most time, be it generative AI or machine learning, deep learning models, we spend the most time in this particular section. About best practices, I would say that there are just so many statistical understanding that needs to happen when you get your data, be it whatever kind of modality you are dealing with. So best practices wise, I would say that like talk to your SMEs, the people who really understand. So for Kathy, like she is the expert in healthcare, right? So she would know what it means. So I would definitely think it from the perspective that whoever owns the data, I should just have a lot of conversations with them to understand that is it even right direction. So that's what I would suggest. Just additional point on what Kathy and Prakriti has been saying. So yeah, that's what I would think.
Thank you so much, everybody. So, from what the panel shared, what we understand is that data is the soul of any AI model or system you build. So you have to ensure that everything that is concerning the data has to be of high quality, ensuring the privacy of the data, the source of the data, and documentation is highly important. So these are the key takeaways you can get, as you are working through your AI projects. So, I'm gonna jump ahead in the AI project life cycle where you would um, you know, let's say you build your model, and then once the model is built, then you have to still continue your processes, as Prakriti mentioned, right? You have your old models, and you're trying to now replace that with new models because there's so much advancement that has happened. So from a real or practical situation right now, on how you work in your organization, what are some of the strategies you suggest for effectively deploying an AI model and ensuring that there is ongoing monitoring that is happening? And what are the things that you would look for in those monitoring? Feel free to start.
I can go first now. So basically, we are going in a direction called MLOps, right? Where if you were to put your POC or MVP product in production, what happens then? So initially it was called MLOps, where machine learning operationalization was the term, and now if you talk about Gen AI, then LLM ops as we call it. So um, I would think that even this is the big process. It's not a 2 weeks or 4 weeks thing. Why? Because you continuously have to think that what happens if anomaly is happening. Remembering this COVID times that nobody was prepared for that, right? So you're gonna see if for financial industry or for health industry, you're gonna see a lot of spikes in there. So evaluation and right now, why am I combining both? Is machine learning models were really easy to evaluate versus Gen AI models are not because it's generating something, but how good the generation is not in our control. So that evaluation piece and how we put Gen AI models into production versus how we were putting machine learning or deep learning models were completely different. So I would say that right now there are just so little work done in terms of putting Gen AI models into production. So we don't know the real nitty-gritties there. But talking about machine learning and putting that models in production, at least in consulting world, we take 6 to 8 months to do that, which will ensure that your model is performing how it should be. It is really ready for any kind of anomalies? You are evaluating the parameters that you need to evaluate. So that's how this works. But I'll let Kathy and Prakriti share their thoughts as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what Rithi really meant. So, in terms of like general machine learning models, we do have those pipelines in place for production and deployment. So, like first we build the models, then we stress test it. So, as Rithi mentioned, COVID period was an anomaly. So, not just we tested on the basis of latest period available, but also the COVID period. Because if our model is able to perform in the COVID period, then it's an excellent model. Like you are able to perform in something that's like a very rare event, right? So stress testing is definitely one thing. And then in terms of like more deployment and production, I think we do containerize our models and send it to like the production team who inbuilds it in their like systems and architecture and then like gets all those scores and finally like get the output or the final decision from the model. Uh, our team also very much focuses on model monitoring. So that is an integral part. I actually just got out of a model monitoring call as well. So quarterly, we have those reviews of our models in terms of performance. So we have some 3 statistical metrics on which we analyze our models, and then we showcase that results to our customers and like stakeholders, essentially like internal stakeholders, and we show that the discriminatory power of the model is either below the threshold or it is like performing well. And if it's below the threshold, then we have to take an action on that. Like we have to rebuild the model or recalibrate it according to the requirements. So that is like our monitoring and alerting process. And in addition to that, we just have to be very vigilant about like any drift in the population in general, or any like some sort of like economic downturn that is observed, and then we have to act upon it. So that is in the side of monitoring.
Yeah, I think Rudy and Prakriti hit on a lot of good points. I'm not currently in industry, so I don't have much to say about operations, but we also definitely have monitoring practices in play. So having flags in place when your metrics drop below a certain percentage, then you need to go back and reevaluate your model and see what needs to be changed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Those are some great points that you both, all of you have shared. So, looking at understanding what thresholds that you need to keep, what metrics you need to monitor, and also automating the pipeline is very important. And as we know that generative AI is upcoming and we don't have a lot of practices in place, but there is a need for research into those metrics. And I believe like with your experimentation itself, you're actually testing some metrics while you're building your POCs with your clients or for your internal stakeholders. Awesome. So right now we will try to shift gears a little bit. We'll have another eight more minutes for the some questions, maybe two questions, and then we'll open last 10 minutes for questions. We already have questions on the chat. So, briefly, if you can talk about what are some of the essential skills that you think is required for someone to start a career in AI? Kathy, you want to go? Sorry. Yeah, Pradeep, if you want to
Oh,
go.
no, no. Please, Kathy, go ahead.
So I think some kind of coding language is important. Obviously, knowing like Python, which is pretty general and pretty easy to use in my opinion. I think that's important. Also knowing how to having some stats knowledge is important too, because I feel like machine learning and deep learning is often thrown around, but sometimes based on your data, you could just deploy something simple like a linear regression or a logistic regression, and you don't need to use all the resources of a machine learning algorithm. So I think knowing the difference between those two are really important in having a solid coding language that you're going to use to build your models. And also knowing like databases. So I guess having like SQL knowledge or knowing how to use clusters to access your data. Those are some of my essentials at the top of my list.
I can go next. So great point, Kathy. Absolutely, those are the needed skill. Choose your programming language. Choose the basics. I would just add on that is like even when we know that there are so many coding assistants available right now, you can just talk to ChatGPT about what machine learning models you want to use for this particular data, right? Even in this time, the baseline understanding of what those thing means is really really important, like why this network or why this, if you are trying to get into field data science, machine learning, whichever, then this is still important. People still ask for basic things, and then those coding assistant will give you code, but at the end of the day you got to understand that how to put that in line, right? So it's still important that you do little baseline always and then start from there. I'll just add an little thing as like, um, apart from that, I would still recommend that you you understand each and every kind of data that you're about to play with. It could be structure, unstructure, anything that would help as well. That how do you ingest that? So again, coming back to the point that you understand the basic blocks, and then you can choose what's needed from your industry. So that's my 2 cents. Go ahead, Prakriti.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Kathy's point as well as Riddhi's point on like SQL, Python, coding skills, and like understanding the algorithms and how it works is very crucial. Like that's like the baseline. Like everyone in data science should know that. At the same time, I feel like there are so many resources out there to study that material that people get confused. I personally, when I started, like I was studying by myself, so I was self-learning. But when I did my master's program, I realized that the foundations are actually not, like maybe I didn't learn it properly, or maybe I need some guidance from someone to teach me the foundations correctly. So I think, yes, like self-learning would be good, but I would personally recommend doing some sort of like degree, diploma, boot camp, something where you are guided by an instructor on how to proceed. And also in terms of practice, like I did a lot of Kaggle coding, like a lot before coming to my master's. So I think having a good coding foundations and able to like just do like simple queries goes a long way. So that's yeah, definitely one thing I want to add.
Thank you. So those are some great practical tips, all that you have shared, the skill set required and the mindset required to understand the foundation and also to, do that in practice. So those are all of these are like combined will give you a good start to your career. So, picking on from Prakriti's point regarding the masters. So you all are working or like researching in the AI field. Do you recommend someone to go through a master's or a PhD program? to get to your foundational or your kickstart your career in AI? Simple answer and maybe a one-liner why.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, I can just elaborate really quickly what I meant by the education part. I think for me, it was very transformative. Like I worked in different machine learning jobs before doing my master's. I did a lot of internships in analytics as well. However, like the master's was very transformative in the sense that it provided me a structure and proper foundations. So like correct knowledge of what's applicable, what's the most recent, what the industries are looking for, somewhat of a support system. So in that sense, I would say that education definitely plays a good role. But I have seen like even like 3-4 months of boot camp could also like do a great job.
I think generally to be a data scientist, no, you don't need a master's or a PhD, but the master's would help you build a deeper understanding. And it could also make you more competitive on the market. And then I would only recommend the PhD if you want to pursue research, and you're passionate about the research you're pursuing, because it's quite a marathon to do.
Yeah. And my one-liner is to both Prakrit's and Kathy's point, it's not necessary to have it, but it's good to have it just because if it aligns with your passion, there are just so many specialized masters even today in the market. So if you are really learning about something very specific, then this would do. At the same time, hands-on practice will always be better. So boot camps would do the same job for you, but PhD is a big commitment. So that for that you have to have a special interest in that. But if a master is course-based master versus 3 boot camps would do the same thing for you. So I would definitely still think that course-based masters would be good for you to give a structure on practice point, and then PhD is a different level of commitment. So if you are a research thing, then definitely go for it.
Thank you all panelists. I also did my master's to get a career in AI. Actually, because today's world is very competitive. So, if you need to stand out, you might have to get a master's. But again, it's not necessary. There are a lot of successful stories without that as well. So, we can take a couple of questions, and I do have a final question for all the panelists, so I'll keep some time for that. So we have 2 questions in the chat. The first question is about data provenance. That companies do with the data. How does that tie to your point, Prakriti, about documentation? Actually, anybody can answer. We all talked about documentation. So, tied to your point about documenting data dictionaries for models to help validation teams. So how do you document? How does data provenance helps with the validation teams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think by data provenance, and correct me, Sudha, if I am wrong, like you would mean like data lineage or like just how we are
Yes.
putting data through
Yes.
pipeline. So in fact, maybe it's like project dependent, but like in our project, we had to really dig deep into like different resources of data, and then like pull our data. So like there was no such pipeline in that sense. However, a pipeline would be better. What we do on our end is like whichever code we are generating or table we are generating, we do make sure that we are aligned with the most latest standards in the bank. So we have a universal data catalog within the bank where we are storing all the metadata and the data dictionaries associated to it. So that helps with the validation team. So they can go in the universal data catalog, pull the data dictionaries, and then understand our data lineage or like the data that we have generated. We do like I do agree your point, like that data provenance or data lineage is definitely a struggle in one of these like bigger companies.
So my question was, there are existing data lineage, data single source of truth organized in companies, even before AI, and then they adapted very well with AI. So my question is, when I heard you as a data scientist and looking at communicating the what your data dictionary is, I was just thinking, are we creating a new parallel process led by the data scientist to code document everything for Gen AI compared to a parallel path of, here is customer data, here is single source of truth data. So is that going to, run parallel? Is there a collision path? How do you see that play out practically in industry?
Yeah, I would say that that single source of data is just no longer there because we have had so many migrations within the bank. The data has moved from okay, let's say data is being collected by the branch. So it has moved from mainframe system to enterprise data lake. Then it moved from enterprise data lake to GDAP, which is Google Cloud Platform. But during those migrations, some of the data tables just failed to migrate. Because of that, the source data is sitting at multiple platforms. So that is the major challenge. And in terms of Gen AI, again, I think Riddhi might be able to speak to that. But for us, we are not dealing with customer data from a Gen AI perspective, just because customer data is just too sensitive. We are just using publicly available documents for increasing our operational efficiency within the bank. So that's the POCs that are going right now, not touching anything customer related as of now. Does that help answering your question?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in, or can we go to the next question? Okay. So the next question is about model monitoring. Model monitoring review on performance is fascinating. I would like to know how this plays out with your business unit owners in these meetings. Is this open-ended or focused on business AI use cases? So, when you do your are you involving? Yeah, are you involving your business owners, and do they get to say what kind of monitoring you do along with maybe your technical metrics?
Maybe I can start this one. So basically, yeah, absolutely. Model monitoring or evaluation is the piece where stakeholder needs to align. It could be our customers or it could be internal stakeholders. And by aligning, I just mean that we can convert those engineering metrics into business metrics for them to understand what makes sense. And if they see a gap between their understanding of how model should be performing, then we gotta do lots of work in the backend. But these are machine learning, deep learning kind of thing. But for generative AI, there are just so many different kind of evaluation metrics in place. And I see that now, because we talk more business language in generative AI models, it's easier for them to get the conversation done between all the ML model metrics or versus their metrics. So we definitely, this is the place where we include all the SMEs and stakeholders in the pipeline. That yes, now you tell me if this makes sense to you or not. But yeah, let's see what Kathy and Prakriti have to say.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what you said, Riddhi. Our stakeholders have very open-ended questions, but they're very much focused on whether whether the performance is gonna improve or not. Yeah, we also mask some of our metrics and make it easier for them to understand. So yeah, that's definitely there, but no such, very it's kind of back and forth between the business and our team that, okay, you observed something, okay, we need to act on it, but then it goes through a process of first a memo is generated, then there are many conversations, and then finally an action is taken on it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Riddhi and Prakriti. And Carrie, I have a question, specific to healthcare, regarding the monitoring metrics, right? So, you might have some research and you might evaluate. I've seen a lot of computer vision related metrics, like IOU or those kind of metrics we evaluate to compare the results. Is there any other that domain specific metrics we use to compare the efficiency of a model for that particular use case, from your research? Can you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we often use AUROC, area under the receiver operating curve, to look at our accuracy. And then more for computer vision with segmentation and stuff, we look at things like Hausdorff distance. And overall, that's just measuring how different the two segmentations are. So it's a similarity measurement as well. So those are the main ones we use for IOU Hausdorff distance in AURC for computer vision. And then in healthcare, it's a lot of all those metrics such as sensitivity, specificity to make sure that the accuracy of the AI model for healthcare is in a patient's best interest.
Awesome. So thank you so much. So we have 3 more minutes left, and we have one final question for all of you. So, with 1 minute, please try to, summarize what your thoughts are. So, what would be the key piece of advice you would like to share with the audience today, so that you can guide them in their AI and data science endeavors?
I can go first. So I think be intentional about what you're trying to do. So whether you're trying to learn a new skill in AI or you're starting a new course, set goals so that once you're done learning or whatever you decide to do, like what kind of skills are you gonna want to have once it's over, like once the course is over? Or like if you're watching a talk like this, like what kind of things do you want to get out of listening to these panels? To overall build your skills, and then learn to use AI to your advantage. How can you use it to improve your productivity every day or at work?
Yeah, I can go next.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was thinking that for this, I'd say one piece of advice would be that choose your use cases or problems that excite you, solve it, and then this will be useful when you interview for multiple companies that this is what you've done. And when I say 1 or 2 use cases, like from one point to another, have you reached there and what are your things? This will get you involved in the real process, and your interviewers will have a lot more confidence in you. And the second thing is, there are just so many companies where you can just do internships. You can do just without pay. You can finish their projects, and this will also help you get the day-to-day lifestyle or real-time problem solving skills within AI or machine learning projects. This will be your starting point to get to the market. This is what I did, and that works for me. So yeah, I really hope that works for you as well.
Yeah, just to add on, I think those are great points. I think from my perspective, like once you are also like in the industry, it's also very critical to just keep abreast of all the changes that are happening. So be on top of all the latest news, latest inventions in AI, and also like just network with people, like go out, go to conferences, go to these kind of like workshops, and just grab as much knowledge as you can. Because yeah, that's also like important to grow.
Thank you so much. So just summarizing, our panelists' thoughts would be intentional in what you're doing. Be intentional in what problems you're working, why you're even doing that. And also select your problems, and be practice as much as you can before you actually go into that, because whether it's to volunteer opportunities or through some projects. And finally, get in front of those audience as well, network, and understand what is happening in the industry as the industry is advancing in the faster space. So, we had 45 minutes of great learning session here. So I hope all of this would be helpful for the audience in some way as you're entering or advancing your career in AI. So I want to take the opportunity to thank all 3 of our panelists, Kathy, Riddhi, and Prakriti, for taking your time, sharing your insights and your knowledge and your thoughts and perspectives with the audience today. Thank you so much for making the time. And thank you, Sudha, Business School of AI, and Roxy, and all the participants of this IoT Women's Day for giving us the opportunity to share some part of our life with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francie. This was fantastic. I myself, I'm thinking, okay, what time did this happen? I need to come back and watch the recording. So there's so much. I mean, a good panel is something that teaches us something, but then leaves us with wanting more. So I think you did a fantastic job. So thank you, everybody. Awesome.
Very sweet, Sudha. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. If you can hang in here, you're welcome to stay on for a little bit for the other panels also. That's totally fine. That'll be awesome because you bring, real experience and perspective. So I appreciate that. Okay, so the next panel is going to be about career pivot. I just wanted to do a time check and see where we are in terms of my promise to keep time today. So I think we are not doing too badly. So 1 second, let me get the schedule back up. Okay, so this is my favorite topic because though I teach AI and I always teach AI with the AI ethics lens, but all my students are thinking about, improving their career and growing their career and innovating so that they can do something bigger than just, do a job. So I'm super excited to bring this career panel. Let me make sure that I bring everybody in here. 1 second. So there's Alejandra Infantis, and I told you about her already. And as I am looking to bring people, and here is Suma Gangadhar, who's joining us from India. Alejandra is joining us from Spain, and she represents the world of Latin America. She's going to host a panel later this afternoon, but she's been our Latin America ambassador and brought amazing women and topics. So I'm so excited to have Alejandra in here. Who am I missing? Olu. Okay, I've officially said I cannot do justice to Olu's intro at all, so I'm just going to. Olu is a force. That's all I always tell people. Olu is a force. Who am I missing in here? Ananya, if you want to join in, I will add you in. Otherwise, I will leave you there so you can chime in when you feel like, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I missing anybody? And I see Roxy Simpson has entered the building. So how can we not call her in? Roxy, I'm going to put you on the spot. Roxy, my partner in crime to make this happen. IoT Day. Welcome. So Roxy, we are just getting started with the career panel. So I would love for you to, introduce yourself first so that, people know what a force you are. And then we will, go through this panel. And, I know I was actually wishing, sometimes you wish for it and the universe manifests. It's one of those things that happened because Roxy said, I'm going to come in and out. I'm not available through the day. And I was like, Roxy should be in this career panel. I said, it's all right, and so it worked out great. So Roxy, do you want to introduce yourself first, and then we'll get started with the panel? We have some, structure and how we have planned to do this so that I can do justice to time.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone, and especially Sudhar, for every year. This is our 5th year that we're doing this, and every single year we're so amazed with all the wonderful women joining us. Should I always want me to introduce myself? I always love to introduce other people and hear other people said thing about themselves. So quick intro for me. I'm currently the Vice President of Engineering and Head of Innovation at F5, a global cybersecurity company. And prior to F5, I was the Chief Technology Officer for Iotwoman Labs. And I've been with Sudhar again for 5 years for this journey. And every single time, like, I get excited. Even when I walk back here, I'm like, how can I miss this wonderful journey? Anyway, I'm here and I'm looking forward to hear from everyone, and welcome and thanks for being here. Back to you, Sudha.
Thank you. So one of the things, the way I'm going to structure this is every year we do this. We bring a bunch of women and we try to not just go back into our network. So one of the things they tell about women is we have smaller networks. I don't. I challenge that. I challenge everybody on earth to my power of, the scope of my net, not just the scope of my network, the authenticity of my network. I can call on my network for anything. And
I'm with you on that, Sudha. We challenge everyone say we have a small network. We have a huge network.
That's true. But they say that when this whole IoT day started because somebody invited me to speak at an event and it had all guys only as panelists. And I was like, why didn't you ask the guys for a reference? Because they said we did not have enough access to women. So that motivated me to get started. I came and talked to Roxy and we said, we got to do this. And, we ended up doing this. 5 years back. And it has evolved into a much more structured event with a lot of amazing volunteers. So one of our goal is to obviously showcase brilliant women from around the world, bring their expertise so people can learn from them. And the other thing is to create role models. I think somebody said that early on I think Frinzi said that in the previous session. We want to create role models, right? If we don't see somebody like you doing the kind of things that is even possible, they might not even think like somebody growing out there might not even think. So I find what Inayanki is doing and going to find people in refugee camps and young people and say, you can build electronics. Now let me make that into a startup and let me get you a path. So it's just mind blowing what is possible. So our goal here is, while you're talking here, think about this, that you're creating role models. So every year we end up with this, with one panel on this career discussion. So I thought I should jump in, because every one of my students is kind of like, enhancing their career in some form and want to change the world in that process. So when I talk career, I'm not talking job. Right. So for those of you who are watching this and say, I want to move into AI, we had a previous set of panelists who were talking about how do you get into data science and into the world of AI. And we had several panelists and speakers since morning today who were all, doing different aspects of AI. And we have spoken a lot on AI. So we'll switch gears. We're going to talk about career. And it's not going to be limited only to AI and being a technologist. So I just want to say that, because there's a lot more soft skills needed. And so that's how I'm setting this up. Okay. And the other thing is, last year when we did this, because Paria is such a soft spoken, powerful person, and she's in class, she was my partner building this out this year, but she's going to be able to stop by. She said, I cannot be out of class for too long, so I'm going to come in a little bit and if possible, but she doesn't want to miss class. She's a good student, so that's awesome. So she's going to come in towards the end when we close. So Paria is a very soft-spoken person. So last year we called this soft-spoken but strong. And we made that a tagline for us this year, right? For the whole event, what we do. And I know we don't have soft-spoken only women in the panel, but I will go to the topic. So what I would like to do is, I would like to just ask the panelists. We asked Roxy already, so I'm going to call on the panelists to introduce yourself. Take 30 seconds on an intro, and then we will come back, and I have specific questions for each of you. That's how I'm going to structure it. And then as you're listening here, I was actually looking for questions in LinkedIn, and I was coming and trying to field it. I may not do justice to it, but I'm going to try. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, post a question. If you're here in the Zoom, it's even better, because you get to speak up, or you can post a question too. Okay. So let's start with Alejandra. To 30-second round of introduction. So Alejandra, then Suma, then Olu, because when Olu speaks, then there's going to be like light filling the screen, so I can't start with Olu. So Alejandra, you go first.
Okay, I'm going to do this fast. Thank you, everyone. My name is Alejandra. I'm from Peru. I'm from the second biggest city in Peru that is kind of small. I'm a lawyer. I actually started studying law. I finished the law school, but then I feel frustrated because the law system. Then I changed to psychology, and I was thinking never to see law again. But suddenly, law and psychology are a perfect match. So then I start to do the psychology analysis of law, and then I finish up in UX. So what I'm doing is applying UX to improve the experience of law from psychology perspective.
So you have this new field called legal behavioral design. So
yeah,
we're going to come back to you, because I find that very fascinating that you took different fields and you did like a double bachelor's and a master's, right? So now you combined all that and you created a whole path for yourself. So that's amazing. Okay. Thank you for that. Suma, do you want to go next? Suma, we can't hear you properly. Maybe you're on mute. Okay, so why don't we switch to Olu and we'll come back to Suma.
Yeah, thanks, Sudha. It's wonderful to be with you this year. I'd like to first thank you for the honor of joining you again this year. Last year was on Easter Sunday. I would never forget. We had an amazing time, and I want to also thank the powerhouse behind this year's conference. Also to thank the speakers that had spoken, the panelists, the moderators that had spoken before this particular panel, to appreciate the work that you have put in. So briefly, like Sudha mentioned, 30 seconds. My name is Oluneye Oluwole, Olu for short. To my friends, I'm an author, I'm a keynote speaker, an International Women's Day speaker. I'm an expert in enterprise development and also a spoken word poet. I have a congressional recognition award for my leadership roles over the years. My achievements in entrepreneurship and mentorship from Sheila Jackson Lee, from 16th Texas congressional, I think, office in the US. And then I'm also a senior fellow at the Digital Economist, and I'm a serial entrepreneur with Impactful Ventures. I have gone into enterprise development. I have a storytelling, a literary organization called Story Chest Group here in Canada, One Global that looks into personal development and leadership, and of course, another business that I had exited, African Hub. So all of these is a combination of what I represent. And on my literary side, I have an international bestseller, which is called The Butterfly Effect. I have my political memoir, Serve with Heart and Mind, Dreams of a Patriot. And I'm committed to fostering international collaborations through speaking engagements that leverage spoken word storytelling to drive innovation, not only in the creative economy, but also in mental health, in personal development, and corporate leadership arenas. Back to you, Sudha. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So one of the things that you talk about, Olu, is like, I don't want to dim my light. What was the exact quote? I actually want to give you credit when I say this. I don't tell me about that, because that's how I want to start this panel.
Okay, I can't dim my light for you in order for you to feel good. So if my light is affecting you, it's better you get a pair of dark glasses. I can't dim my light.
That's amazing, because one of the things a lot of women do is kind of they make themselves little smaller and little dumber, and even sometimes they're mansplained too and they put up with it. Sometimes they deliberately kind of downplay their smart. So I just love this, what you said, that especially with the amazing things that you're doing. It's like a lot of stuff, and it can be intimidating. If it's intimidating somebody, it's on them, it's not on you. You don't need to dim your light. So awesome. So what I want to do is I want to go through a set of questions that I have for the panel. And it's super late for Suma, and we moved this panel to past midnight and stuff. So, I apologize, Suma, if we missed you on that, or if you have some connectivity issue. We do a lot of events, so I'm going to try and see if we miss people, or if they have any connectivity issue, we'll bring them back another time. So let me go back to how I had planned this, because I had a set of questions for that goes to everybody. So I'm going to start with Alejandra. So tell me about how you pivoted. You put 3 fields together and you pivoted your career, right? Tell us a little bit about this. This, what did you call it? Legal behavioral design. How did you get to that? And I think it's a very fascinating story, because one of the things I tell people when they're learning AI and say, I want to get into AI, where do I get started? Especially there was discussion of about whether we need a master's degree and stuff. I actually say every job is becoming an AI job. So you just need to figure out, what do you bring to the table? What are you passionate about? And how do you add AI to it? And it doesn't have to be AI. It could be anything else. But I think a lot of people are getting into AI. So you created this new role for yourself. So, and pivoted your career. Talk to us about it. How did you do that? What's the lesson in that?
I think thank you again for your presentation. It's this pathway. I think I created, like, just keep it moving. I think it is important when you feel that what you're doing is not enough, keep moving and go forward and try to experience new things. So as I told you, I started as lawyer, and I was a very good lawyer student. And I was an intern, and the Peruvian law system of justice for me was very frustrating. I didn't understand why it took so long to be, to give to the people justice. It didn't make any sense for me why there are so much chaos there, and why people, they don't understand their rights. So for me, it was very frustrating. And then I realized that beyond the law, there's behavior. And I say this is fascinating because there are contexts. So if we want somebody compliant, do what the law says, we need to understand two things: the behavior and the context. So I was like, and I think in one hand is keep moving, but in the other hand is to be lucky and be in the right moment with the right people. So as I was an intern, my first job was working with the customer side of law. And then I realized that there's a lot of perspective that in case law, for example, economy or psychology. But then, as I was very frustrated, I said, like, okay, I'm going to stop doing being a lawyer. And now that I'm very fascinated about the behavior, about the context, about how we think, about how we feel, I want to be a psychologist. And then I got very into neuroscience and how our brain was working, and how all the decision making was happening in our brain. For me, it was fascinating. So I think the best decision I ever made, even if sometimes it's difficult, if you see your peers going faster than you, is I think my best decision in the life was study law. Then
to
I
study
think
law.
another,
So you're talking about how you wanted to get away from law to do psychology, but you're
I,
saying your
I,
best decision was to study law.
no, was to study psychology. Sorry.
Study psychology. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I think first we have moving forward, then be curious, be very curious at what you are very interested into, and don't be afraid to go deeper. I think that's a very good second point. And then trust in your luck and what's the things going around you are telling you. So in that moment, I was in psychology school, and I almost went to Colombia for a neuroscience laboratory. But suddenly that opportunity was canceled. A lot of things happened there, and that opportunity was canceled. And I was very sad because it was my dream. But then when I just let it go, magic happens. It started to happen like one step after other. And like by serendipity, I found this group of lawyers in Lima, the capital of Peru, that they were very interested to do psychology and law. And I said, okay, let's give it another try to law because it's here. I really enjoy law. I enjoy that theoretical part. Because law somehow tells you the story of humanity and how our social connection has been built. That's law. So I did give another try to law, and I start to do a lot of volunteer with these people. And suddenly, when I finished my school at Arequipa, I think I was very lucky because these people, they were a group called Psychology, and they were Mario, Carlos, and Jose Maria. And Mario and Carlos, they had their own business. And the customer authority of Peru, they were looking for somebody that was a lawyer but understood psychology. And they said, like, hey, Ale, you're perfect to work with us. Come here, work with us 1 month, and that's it. while you try to find the UX role you are looking for. And I say, okay, let's do this. And then I went to Lima, and that month became 5 years. I'm still working with them. And when I said like, hey, what is my role? How we call my role? And then we found this movement that was starting in Stanford Laboratory of Law, and it was called legal design. But for us, behavioral was a thing that was very important, that went beyond law. So we said, okay, let's be behavioral legal designers, and let's try to improve the legal experience. So if I can resume these things, is like, and finally, something that happened in all this time, I had a lot of times that I was doubting that I'm doing the right thing. Am I in the right pathway? Am I with the right people? But in the other hand, you have to trust, or even doubting myself, like, am I enough? You always doubt yourself. But then you have to be strong and connect with the right people. And when you forget who you are, when you forget what are the things you bring to the table, these right people will always tell you, and you won't even ask. It's like, for example, working in this event, I was doing things, and you and all that team of IoT event were always saying like, hey, thank you for what you bring to the table. And I was like, oh, no, I'm welcome. I'm just trying to help. So I think that when you are
brought a whole new energy. I mean, I was used to doing this one way with Roxy. Roxy is like a star, like gone up, and so I can't catch her time. And then Paria is doing school, and Paria was a high school intern when she started working with me a couple years back. And so I have, other people. We tried various different models, right? And this time we said we have not got enough. We want people outside of our network. So I said I want more people from Latin America. And then, I saw you at Barcelona Technology School, and you're so full of energy. And I was like, she has potential to do more. I don't know what. She needs to figure that out. So I said, do you want to be part of this event? You brought a whole different dimension to this. Other than the Latin American women, you brought a different kind of thinking of how we should organize, because you're a designer. You're like, your logo, it needs change. And so there were like things like that. You just, change the whole, if for those of you who watch the YouTube for the playlist for this year's IoT Women recording, it's like a very different level of creative. That was all credit to Alejandra, and we didn't even do like a proper creative brief to go through the process to the standard she wants. So she got this out of me and got this going. And you're a great team player, great communicator. It's just amazing. So wonderful. So I want to come back to you on your whole pivot, how you put things together. I just want to add one comment. You said something about serendipity and something about luck. And I believe luck happens to the people who work very, very hard. We do so many things that, something clicks, and then we say, it's amazing, this happened, and and then I just went this way, right? But you were working very hard, and you were in several rooms, and you were making yourself visible, you were educating yourself, you showed great attitude to so many people you were networking with. So I remember, you from my class specifically, right? And so I felt the need to call on you to help me, so I think luck is something we kind of make it happen, is my belief. The other thing is, I used to say like that serendipity statement. I think it's a very humble thing, especially in the women in career panel. I have to say this. I am not a humble person, but I used to say, oh, when people used to ask me about, various successes of my life in the past and stuff, I would say, oh, I was very naive. I was very ignorant about it, and that helped me. And at that point, I believed that I was ignorant and I was not aware of the consequences of how things were, or, because of which I took some risks. But I took risks. I educated myself, and I had, I had whatever it took to get to whatever I was getting there. But I think I had that humility a little bit. I've lost it. So I'm good now. Okay. So I want to come to Olu. So Olu is somebody who makes her career, right? I just think people will, are not just the serendipitous thing, but there are, people like Olu, like create a world. You just go, I feel like you keep expanding the universe. So what's your secret to, shaping your career, and what can you tell people who are watching this to be, to do something to expand their world, especially you feel stuck, especially people who are thinking, I want to switch careers, they're like, I don't have enough time, I don't have the money, I can't do a master's. Or some people like when I teach technologies, they are like, they love technology, so they're brilliant, but they're not coding. They're like, I can't go and start learning Python, I don't want to, that's not in my energy flow. And so everybody feels limited in different ways. So instead of thinking about the limitation, how do you just go endlessly? Tell us your secret.
Thank you, Sudha, for that question, and thank you, Alejandra. Did I get it right? Thank you. I find a common thread in your story and my story that I'm about to share. And the first question you asked, how do I do that? The first thing, like you said, a lot of people, they have that lack of self-confidence, and they don't want to put themselves out there. And I see that as a major problem because the society has placed, barriers, has placed boundaries, and then you conform to those boundaries. So the first thing is to refuse to conform or to be confined by those boundaries that society has placed. So you want to go into STEM or AI, and they say, oh no, women are not meant to be in that space. So for me, on my journey, I would say when I started out in my career, I started in the travel industry, and that was when my hands were full. I had 3 kids, all under the age of 10, and then when that career started, it was a toxic environment that I had to pivot to entrepreneurship. It wasn't out of the fact that I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. It was out of necessity to be able to do something and also take care of my children. So that was the initial, changing your career, the direction and the path that I was going. And then on top of that, dream, or on top of that career, pivoting into entrepreneurship that I had never gone into, is having a dream to start my first book, to write the first book. So there are several layers. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a woman, a patriarchal system, cultural barriers. And then on top of all of this, I want to write and document a book that is about my state, that is beyond my scope. So which brings me to the fact that for you to be able to move on in your career, you have to be able to dare to pave your own pathway. You have to be able to dare the impossible. And you know that trailblazers, visionaries, pioneers like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, even J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter author, these are trailblazers. These are visionaries that just refuse to be confined, to what the society has earmarked. So you have to decide who you're going to be. Are you going to be the person that is confined to what the boundaries that the society has created, or you're just going to take a chance? And second thing that jumps up for me is the fact that, believing in my potential, meaning that I understood who I was. I understood what I wanted. I studied geography. My life was in the outdoor, adventure, learning new places, going places. So when that dream to document, my state, the heritage of my state, started. And this is where I'm going to draw a correlation between what Alejandra said. I started this project in 2003. And of course, the confines of the boundaries was, why are you doing this? Why are you traveling a lot? Why do you want to embark on this project? But then, believing in what I could do, in 2003. And right about the time that I started, putting in the hard work, just like Sudha mentioned, and, documenting, traveling, taking the video, interviewing, then I got an invite, just like Alejandra said, to the state government for an economic summit. And there I was able to share my experience of documenting the state, which the state hadn't even sent me.
This was in Nigeria, right? Not Canada.
This was in Nigeria. No, this was in Nigeria. This was back in 2003 in Nigeria. So I'm just kind of giving you a timeline of the career progression. So when I got to the state event and I shared my experience and what I had been documenting, they said, who is this woman that is telling us what we are doing wrong? And of course, that was my first introduction into serving at the state level. They brought me on board of the tourism cooperation to write the policies for the state government in tourism, in investment, based on what I had initially started on my own, not listening to what the culture or what the society had laid out, for me. So this was a 4-year, just like Alejandra said. I thought it was just going for an event, and then I ended up, taking up an appointment with the state government, for 4 years. And at the end of that term of 4 years, the book that I had started writing, was finished, and I had the opportunity to present it to the governor to say, this is what I have done for the state, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't know that at that meeting, there was a discussion to appoint a new set of local government technocrats in my state. So that was what gave me my second, my second appointment. So which brings me to the third point. You have to take a bet on yourself, okay? When no one takes a bet on you, either from the fear of them fearing for you for the if and when the idea fails, or from their lack of faith in your potential, or their own fear of failure, or their own insecurity about themselves. You have to take a bet on yourself, even if nobody is taking a bet, because that was what I did. I took a bet on myself. I took a bet on, I wanted to do this. I wanted to document this, and which led me to further, higher stage, of influence, of leadership. And now the fourth thing that I want to talk about is the willingness to embrace the unknown. This was an unknown territory. It was an uncharted course. No woman had ever done it in my state. No man has ever done it, but that didn't deter me. For me, it meant that I had the opportunity to venture into this uncharted territory. I had to, document this, and I had to trust my instincts that what I was going to do or what I was embarking on, is going to have impact. It's going to have, some sort of influence. And let me quickly bring this to what happened during COVID, when I migrated to Canada, and there I was stuck, and there was nothing that we could do. And I told myself, why don't you start a storytelling, forum, a community, to talk about your challenges, your experiences, and begin to bring different speakers. And that was how Sudha and I got together. And today we're having, the influence of that. So what am I saying? You have to trust your instincts. You have to be able to believe that
You built a brilliant community. I've met so many people. I think I met Yash.
Yes.
Your sessions.
To think that Yash came for that event, she didn't know Sudha, and today, 3 years down the line, she's a moderator of a panel, and what we're doing. So number 5, I would say, is the willingness to learn from your success and your failures, and understand that these failures are just events and not your identity, because there is no way you're going to go into uncharted territory or uncharted courses that you're not going to make mistakes. So that is to let you know that those failures or those mistakes, they become the vessel through which your true character is forged, and the fire inside of you, comes out. So and this gives birth to my next book for next year, which is looking at failure, failing forward, my failing moments, my lessons learned, insights, a better me, a better vision, because all of these, is a sum total of your journey. Number 6, and I'm rounding up, is your commitment to innovation. It means embracing that journey and infusing innovation. It means revolutionary ideas. It means disruptive thinking. And I would also backtrack to my first books. When I started with the publishers, I wanted my books online. Then they said, who does that? In 2003, who does that? Where is that happening? Don't forget, this was in Africa. It was in Nigeria. It was in Ibadan, Southwest Nigeria. But I believed in what I want. I knew what I wanted. I knew this was the way things were going. I had never seen it before, but I believed it. So down the line, 2008, thereabout, the books were, they were published. And of course, they went online. 2012, I had my second book, internationally, third book, Dito, and then the last one, which is the butterfly effect. So what am I saying? All of these are the things that have shaped my career and the progression. And when I talk about innovation, right now, I'm exploring the intersection of creativity, of the creative industry and the tech industry, wherein my anthology of poems is compiled not only as a book in print, but also in an album going on, platforms, streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, and of course, minting my books as NFTs, and exploring the blockchain, blockchain technology.
I told you, always a force, and I was not exaggerating the intro. You're so amazing. You're so amazing. I just cannot.
So I just round up with all of that. So take a bet on yourself. Refuse to be confined to the boundaries set by the society. Innovate, embrace innovation, embrace your failures and successes, and commitment to innovation, and bet on yourself and trust your instincts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Olu. So I think this whole failure, trying to fail, especially I used to say that when they say, oh, girls are not doing enough coding or things like that, right? I find that, right when they are young, girls are taught to behave and follow rules and stuff. And those who break out of that and not follow the rules are the ones who kind of break it. And other people figure it out, right? I don't believe everybody's going to stay like that just because they were told that when they were 10 or 12. So eventually, I think, everybody gets out of it in their own timeline. So that don't follow rules, create your own rules is good. And I like this attitude of failure is an event and not your identity, because we tend to self-judge ourselves and say, oh, was I doing that? Was I the reason for that kind of thing? So I want to keep the spirit of time, because we promised only 20 minutes time for a break. So for those of you who are watching this, we will close at 1 and open back at 1:20. But on the Zoom, if you signed up that bit.ly/IoTwomen24, it's the same Zoom. I'm going to keep that running, but the live stream on Business School of AI will be a new one, because I think there's a 4-hour limit that LinkedIn can take. So I'll come back and share that. So before we wrap up, I have 2 questions. At least we want to get one answered from Roxy, because Roxy is a person who refused to listen to rules. And she's stuck with engineering. One of the things that happens in tech is, as you grow higher and higher in management, they kind of pull you into, okay, you're not tech enough. And I've made the mistake of being an engineer and then moved to other roles. And then I missed the tech. And then I've kind of created my own path to come closer to tech. That's been my journey. But you've stuck with engineering, and you're an engineering leader. You mentor engineers and you drive innovation in a big top corporation. So what's your secret?
Thank you for the question. I think even if I'm saying I'm stick with tech, with engineer, there are many things I'm doing outside that actually make the engineering journey a lot more meaningful and more grounded. I love Olu. She has so much that she brought together to make life is so big and full, right? So for me, when there's so much that Alendra and Olu mentioned, that so I can relate to all of the point. So I think to answer your question, to that, many times I mentor folks that want to pivot from one career to the other in tech. the number one thing that we're telling people not to do is to go down a level so that you can change career. You don't have to do that, because that in tech or in anything, you can always network with others and learn and actually continue to pivot to a different part of your career. Tech is a big field, right? So I pivot from Microsoft Tech to, I got Microsoft certified software solution developer back a long time ago in my career, and then pivot over to, Linux and, IoT, and then now it's cybersecurity, so much to learn. So those are still tech, but it transitioned to different things, right? And so that one thing I would say that stay in tech doesn't mean that you not pivot your career.
Yes.
The
I
area
think
of
the
knowledge
tech is,
change, right?
yeah, tech is one of those industries which kind of cannibalizes itself. We get bored and we say, okay, let's throw this other cloud thing, let's take this new thing, right? It used to be
Yes,
called
yes,
SaaS, right? In the past, I remember it was called
yes.
SaaS.
SaaS, and bring computer from on-prem to Hyper-V to now multi-clouds, right? That's another
And
thing.
even AI has like a whole, like we got bored with
I'm
traditional
learning
AI.
so much about that now too.
Right,
I
right.
think one of the thing that what Elandra and you actually, Sudha, mentioned is we want to I say I'm no longer a quiet spoken person. It's more like
It's hard to imagine you as a soft-spoken person.
I used to be very soft-spoken. The thing is, I think you want to find your circle where you are there and what in your mind can come out. When you're in the circle, when suddenly you can't share your thoughts, you feel constrained. You feel like you have so much to say, but you have nothing to, nothing coming out. That's the circle you want to run away from. So I do run away from things. I'm not perfect. I'm keep moving. That what Ellen just said. I really relate. It's like, why you struggle for things? You continue to move and find a circle that will hear your voice. You keep showing up, giving your best, and you keep moving. And that's how I stay intact. I'm not always the smartest one in the room, but the room that I usually in have many smart people that I can learn from, and therefore we can deliver so much than alone.
I have to wrap up in 2 minutes, but I want to pick on what you said. One thing is you told about your journey, and in being in tech, you're constantly learning, innovating to new areas. So you've stayed in tech, right? In that sense. And you've grown, you're being very humble about, what you're actually doing. But I appreciate that. I was going to ask this question. I never discussed this with Roxy, but this is my last question. How do you, like Roxy said, find the circle where you can speak your mind, where you're not limited? And so people say, like, surround yourself with people who give you energy and walk away from opportunities if it is a caustic environment and stuff like that. I find that I found this especially in my previous corporate job before I went out on my own as a technology futurist, is there's a lot of women who will expect their bosses to kind of help grow their career, and they will say, give me advice. And you ask advice, you get advice, right? So they get a lot of advice, and then they say, oh, you're missing this other thing, so you're not getting a promotion because don't have this other thing, so go take on this other role, take on this extra project. So they're just working, doing more, but they internalize that they said, oh, you're not whatever, right? And they internalize and take it as part of their identity and say, I'm not this, right? And so how do you know who's really helping you, like, while you're going through this? So Olu doesn't want anybody to, she goes, creates her path, but along the way, especially for those who are early on, young people in their career, they are very susceptible to judgments. It's very hard. I am a person who doesn't care too much about what other people think about me, but it is not easy, right? Because you tend to think that. So when somebody is saying, okay, I mean well, and I'm going to mentor you and I'm going to help you in your career, and they give advice and say, but you know what, you need to not be soft spoken. But maybe that person, that's their strength, they listen better. And I say this about Susanna because Susanna is going to come in and do the career pivot session right after lunch at 1:20. So don't miss it and don't be late, because she is a very soft spoken person, and after 2 minutes she fills the room. You cannot ignore her.
Yes.
Right. But I'm sure there are soft spoken. I remember in my corporate job sitting and reviewing who should get a promotion, and there was this one person, and they said she's soft spoken, and they were like, oh my God, maybe she should not grow. And I was like, no, look at her team, look at how she's growing her team, how she's delivering her results, what her business partners say. Don't go by your bias on how women should be speaking, right? And then it helped that she went past that. So I was a sponsor for her in that room, and she did not even know it. I didn't even tell her that. So how do you know who to believe when somebody gives you critical feedback? How do you know that that person is helping you, and how to walk away from it? So one thing Roxy said was, if you are not able to speak your mind in that circle, that's not a good circle for you. You have to be authentic yourself. What else have you guys got? What do you think? Especially Alejandra, I want to hear from you, because you were in law and you studied law, and you then did psychology, and then you found a team with whom you feel comfortable to kind of explore this new path of bringing this together. So how do you know who is helping you, or who's not helping you, who's patronizing you?
That's a very hard question,
I know,
because
that's why I asked you.
it's a very hard question, because as I think the cultural background really affects us too, because it creates cognitive bias, it creates heuristic. So sometimes we think that for example, we ask for advice and somebody says something and we think they are right, but maybe they don't. So I think it is important first to ask many opinions, but create your own opinion, like as Olun was saying, it is important to trust your instinct. So that instinct for me, it's have your critical mind too. So talk with a lot of people, try to know what goes with you. And I think it is important also to find a role model, as you were saying, who you want to become and how that person is behaving. So I think have critical thinking, find a role model, and always choose wisely what you are going to take from the others. Because even us, we can give wrong advice to somebody because we have different life experience. But it's important to choose wisely what we want to take.
This goes back to what Olu was saying. When you have a failure, it is a lesson. It is not your identity. So when somebody gives you feedback, it's the same thing. You take that in perspective, because I find that feedback is a gift. If somebody would give me honest feedback, it's a gift. They care enough. And then, like you said, it all comes from different perspectives. So I've had this at work when I had to do other, like I found that they were not able to give me enough to expense all my energy. I would do a lot of different things. And then anybody who sees me would say, you're doing too many things. And, maybe you need to focus on one. I will burn if I just burn my energy. I'm like a car with multiple engines. I cannot run on one. And so it's just you have to know your own what gives you energy, what burns you, and so that's perfect that you take the input. And sometimes people mean well, but they come with their cognitive bias, right? Sometimes they mean well, but that's their life experience. Sometimes it's their personality. So I've become very sensitive. When I give advice, I'm an extreme extrovert. And so when I give advice, I tell people, you need to do this and this, but you figure out how you do it in your own way. I went and organized events and runs and meetups because that's energizing for me. You might not want to do it that way, but you still need to find people who are your circle, network, keep learning. If I'm giving that advice, I would say, figure out how you would do this. Maybe you will sit and go to GitHub and post somewhere quietly and not talk to people. That could be our method, but we both are still out in the world instead of in our own computers. So I need to wrap up because LinkedIn cannot take more than this 4 hours live stream. So I don't want to finish abruptly. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate this panel. I think, all of you who have contributed so far in the morning segment have been amazing. And Oluneye Oluvole. I think it is very important to know people spelling and the right pronunciation, because you will miss out on connecting with an amazing person who could be that pivot to scale your career. So I just want you to know Olu spelling. And I'm going to tag all our speakers out there. So on my LinkedIn, I'm just posting this so you can connect with the panelists. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. And for those of you watching the live stream, we'll have a new live stream at 1:20, and we'll start with the career pivot panel with Susanna Raj. And then Alejandra is going to be back expanding on this whole bringing law and behavioral science all together with an amazing group of women from Latin America. And we have a lot more coming. And we have a data panel. And Roxy is going to be back. We're going to have a fun discussion about innovation, and not a very humble one on what Roxy is working on. So I'm going to get more out of her on what she's really going and doing out in the world. So with that, let me wrap up. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to pause the Zoom, and then if you come back into the Zoom, it's fine. Yeah, and I will continue the live stream. Okay, thanks. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice to see you all.